I dare to say that no one has actually going to attack this issue in the way me and brother D Darrell are going to attack this, not just giving a bunch of emotional opinion, but opinion from our own personal backgrounds working with kids. Because I have actually had experience working with kids who have had issues around their sexuality too, as brother D Darrell has. So let's just keep that in mind right now. So with that said, go ahead, brother. First of all, I want to say thank you for being here again.
Okay,
appreciate you too. This is a very sensitive issue. When you found out about the whole issue about Dwyane Wade, I'm having a tongue tied right here. You know, he came on Ellen's show. You know, he expressed what his son identifies as at this moment. What was your first thoughts emotionally? But then we go professionally as well. But what was your first thoughts emotionally?
I'm going to say that when I first witnessed him going on the Ellen DeGeneres show, in a way, I wasn't shocked, because prior to that, there was rumblings in regards to him and his son and Gabrielle Union going to a gay pride parade that happened, that predated that interview with Ellen DeGeneres. So at that point, in recognizing that this kid at this age is allowed to even go to or to be in the environment of a gay and lesbian or an LGBT parade, I knew at some point his parents have somewhat conceded in the fact that this is who he wants to be, and at some point, because of his age and at that point, that this was pretty much something that they pretty much allowed him to do without any challenge or in any sense of dictating to him how they want him to grow up. And so, to lack of better words, I'm just pretty much saying that it's in witnessing how Dwyane Wade talked about it. Number one, I see that he's a strong supporter of that particular group, in a sense. But at the same time, in regards to the parent and the interaction with his child, it's quite obvious to me that they have more of a egalitarian approach, in a sense, in regards to how he raises his children.
Okay.
So I was not surprised, number one, but at the same time, from my own personal standpoint, I was not pleased with it. I look at it as another instance in which we're using black faces to basically provide sympathy and empathy for another group of people that were definitely allowing that agenda to be above the black agenda. So I looked at it from a variety of different perspectives, but I was not pleased to the fact that he did that and he went on that particular show. Yeah.
Let me say.
Now I can talk about the clinical side too, but from my own personal view, that's what I thought of it from my own personal view. Now, from a clinical perspective, I look at it from the perspective, because I'm looking at the history of Dwyane Wade, a previous marriage, Dwyane Wade's upbringing. There's a lot of things that I think have as far as the family dynamic that contributed to Dwyane Wade going this route. So from a clinical perspective, I'm looking at from the longevity of the psychosocial history of Dwyane Wade and the marriages that he had and the children that he had. So that's and I can go more into that as you continue to talk about the variety of different issues and factors that contribute to this phenomenon. But that's how I look at it from a clinical perspective.
Okay, let me tell you something. Let me give my emotional point of view here too.
Okay.
what I did, Darrell, when I heard about this, the first thing I thought about is, once again, black in this, we live in a society historically where the sexuality of black men continues, in my opinion, to be under attack. We already know right now in American society, when it comes to masculinity, classic masculinity, meaning being a man's man, that seems to be something that is becoming a in society, in which they're now saying this word called toxic masculinity. Excuse me. One my concerns was that, once again, we're seeing the continuation of masculinity amongst black men being under attack, and that we're always usually the ones that are the example, or the ones that are being experimented on, or that we're carted out there to be the first this and the first that. I don't know if you know the history, brother Darrell, in New Orleans, Louisiana. There was a very evil woman who, God, what was her name? She had slaves. She was a white woman, and she would do heinous things to the slave. And one of the first sex changes in history was in Louisiana, done to one of her slaves, where they began to play around or did some things to his genitals, took him away. We know that historically, when they would hang black men in the South, that they would oftentimes do what? Castrate them of their genitals, take away the masculinity which they were afraid of. I think Dr. Frances Wilson talks about that in her ISIS Papers books, about the phallic symbol of the black male penis, the concern that had. So when I saw that Dwyane Wade got on television and displayed that, I said to myself, here's another example in which black people are always the ones, we're the ones being the first to be experimented on. We're the ones to take on these subcultures, these behaviors that are nothing, in my mind, but a throwback to the past. And what's going on, Champion Game Coach? Thanks a lot for coming in, and thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat. Check out his channel. He gives a lot of advice to men about relationships, dating, and just having your game on top of point. So definitely check out Champion Game Coach and give him some love. Check out his channel, and peace to him and Brother Kingdom out there as well, that I know he's pretty tight with. So Brother D. Darrell, that was sort of my thinking, but let's get down to the bare bones of it. Clinically, from my experience as a therapist like yourself, I said that there's something that may have happened psychologically, because in Wade's statement that I read earlier, he said he wants to be the proper role model for his son. And we know that parents, whatever you experience from your parents and their parents, we hand down a lot of pain and emotions to our kids and what we went through. We know that Dwyane Wade had a mother that was on drugs.
Yes.
We know that Dwyane Wade was abandoned by his mother and did not connect with his father until later on in life. Okay. And then we know, and I'm going to play an audio, because a lot of us believe that his wife, Savon, was sort of a nut when she ran around the streets saying that she was homeless. Let me show you a picture of that. We thought that she was out of her mind. That was his first wife. And one of the things that were reported, and I dug this up, there was an article, D. Darrell, and everyone listening, where she actually was taking out a suit against Gabrielle Union, if I'm saying her name correct.
Yeah, she won.
She took out a suit against her, saying that she was doing sexual things in the household with Dwyane while the kids were there witnessing these things at a very young age. Yes. And that something was going on in the household that was not kosher, that was not right. And we know that Dwyane Wade has experienced trauma of some sort. I don't know a lot about Gabrielle Union's background or what have you, but we know that this brother has had a lot of issues. And I'm going to be playing somewhere down the line an audio. And I want to say peace to Super Sly 75 out there who first introduced this audio on his channel that I saw, where the mother of his ex-wife exposed Dwyane Wade and saying that Dwyane Wade has issues and that she took him in when he came to her door with garbage bags, knocking on the door, and took her in, and that the man that he has become now, they're saying that they don't recognize him. And we know that Dwyane Wade has had some type of social and emotional issues, okay? And some of that can be translated to your child when you are a parent, just like a parents that are abusive or parents that use drugs, that can be translated to your children. D. Darrell, what do you say, brother, as a professional? Am I correct, wrong, or otherwise? Step on in.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you're stating. That's why I talked about the psychosocial history, which is basically the historical foundation of Dwyane Wade and the relationships that he has experienced in his past, particularly with his mother, particularly with the lack of his father. His father was incarcerated for a great deal, and they didn't really develop a relationship. So Dwyane Wade, in our essence, particularly when he was young, due to his mother being on drugs, no telling what type of experiences that he saw. Be honest with you, I actually, to be honest with you, I really think that Dwyane Wade was probably I'm not going to say physically sexually abused, but obviously I think that there were some things inappropriate that may have occurred, whether he witnessed it or he experienced it himself. And I'm not going to speak in, I'm hypothetically speaking in that, but I do think that there were some things that he experienced as a kid, just like many kids that grow up with parents that have drug issues, particularly that's in the crack era. And that was a era that greatly diminished the respectability and the functionality of our people. And you know, he grew up in Chicago, you know, so forth. I really do think that there were some things that he experienced, whether visually or physically, that he never healed from. He never was able to process. And then also, again, Dwyane Wade, I question not only about his mother, but also the positive male images and figures that he had in his life. Because obvious, and even in this rhetoric that he's spoken of, if you really listen to it, it's almost as if this brother is struggling with fatherhood, not having any examples of how he's supposed to navigate in that role. And so it's almost like he's taking it by trial and error and so on. But this is one thing clinically that I'm looking at in regards, you notice with Dwyane Wade has always had this infatuation or this tendency to date older women. Gabrielle Union is far older than him. His previous wife is about 8 to 10 years older than him.
That's true.
And the thing and what that is telling me, for many men that I've seen in the clinical, many men that have who have the tendency to do that, in many of those cases, many of those men lack some type of positive interaction with their mother, or they were physically or sexually abused by someone older, a lot older than them, either in their formative years or teenage years. And also, when you look at it in the perspective of his father, he was never taught how to navigate the relationship of being, in regards to being in a positive or functional relationship between a man and a woman. So he was learning on the fly. Now, I don't know your personal experience, but my experience personally when dealing with women and so on, and particularly when I deal with women in family therapy, There are a lot of women, particularly those who date younger. They date younger to seek control. I think Dwyane Wade was in some way wanting to relinquish control, and he wanted a stronger personality than him, and so on. And one of the things that I was looking at was the fact that when he dated this older woman dictated a lot that was going on in his life and how he operated. You look at the fact that this brother allowed Gabrielle Union to take his son, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna say son. I'm not gonna, and I'm gonna talk clinically why I'm gonna say son, because in reality, this person was born a male, so I am going to look at it from a reality standpoint. Okay, he allowed his wife to take his son to get his nails done and to do female orientated things. And to me, I wholeheartedly think that in that relationship, Dwyane Wade relishes on being the submissive, he relishes on being the more submissive person, and the female being older and dominant. Okay, because the whole time I'm looking at that, I'm noticing that even with his first wife, the issues they had, in which he talked about things in which she was dominant. Gabrielle Union obviously having the ability to freely do these things, and obviously you agreed to it because this is your child. You're allowing someone that is not the biological figure for this child, and you're allowing them to do female things. And I think that this has probably happened throughout the duration of that relationship that has contributed to this child developing in the sense of who they think they're supposed to be. Okay. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it in regards to Dwyane Wade social development, social psychological development that has allowed him to come to this place in which he's at now, in which he is in some sense not in a sense of being, like you're saying, from being a masculine person, because as far as being a masculine, when you're being a masculine person, you're kind of putting your feet down on things. You're kind of dictating. You're kind of taking control. You're in a sense creating the narrative, regardless of what people like or dislike. Being a father, you make the hard decisions, regardless of, but what you think is the right decision, regardless of what other people may think in your family. They may not like it. And I just think that in that point, Dwyane Wade relishes on playing the background, being the more submissive personality. Right. And I think that has contributed to his son. Number one, they're witnessing this. They are in somewhat seeing him do this. And so we have to understand, see, we tend to talk about in science, we focus a lot on the genetic stuff and so on. But I think that what we tend to discredit is the environmental effect of mental illness, the things that socially go on that can condition you to want to be certain things, that condition you and train you, and in somewhat, to me, be honest with you, particularly with media, it's all a form of social engineering in which they're creating something and there's in somewhat trying to normalize it, and they're expecting you, because as human beings, we tend to want to do things that will not cause shame. So if someone takes a behavior and they no longer cause shame into it or cause it to be negative, then there's going to be a tendency of people to want to try to do those things, whether internally they think it's something they want to do or not. There are more people now that are more willing to be flexible with their sexuality than there was 30 years ago. Right. Because if I decided to do it, there's no shame, there's no negative consequence that can come out of that, as opposed to in the 90s and the 80s and earlier. So those are some of the things that I looked at in regards to looking at Dwyane Wade and where he's at. I think that it's not going to come out now, but I guarantee you, when these kids become older and all of his kids are grown, you're going to start seeing the consequences of his parenting, the consequences of that environment, and that's going to tell the story of what we were dealing with right now. Right now, we're just saying the infancy stage, because this kid has just come out with these things. But once they become older, it's going to shed light, not now, but definitely in the future.
Right. Let me just say this. You know this concept, Brother D. Darrell. The concept is called transference and countertransference.
Yes.
Sometimes we will project onto other people something that we either didn't have in our life or someone who wronged us in life. Women do this and men do this in relationships.
Yes.
Where you look at someone, when I'm working with the guys in prison, and guys go off on you and they get upset, or even kids, you could remind them of someone that actually abused them. You can something about you, your sound, your look can remind a woman or someone of some type of trauma early on in their life. So when you look at a guy like Dwyane Wade and you say, well, maybe he's got a mother complex because his mother abandoned him. He could be, even when his relationship with Union, he could see those mother qualities in her that he did not get from his own mother. Matter of fact, in the audio that I'll play at some point today, his first wife, Savon, if I'm saying her name correctly, she said, and let me put her picture up here because everybody thought she was crazy when she was out there on the street saying that she was homeless and that Dwyane wasn't. And I think people didn't pick up on the true message that she was saying in the audio, which is actually a video that you can find on YouTube. Her mother said that the Dwyane Wade, they don't know the Dwyane Wade that they're dealing with today. And the Dwyane Wade came to her door and she said she treated him like a mother. She did everything to help him, clothe him, and raise him because his own mother abandoned him. This was the mother of his first wife who had to sue Gabrielle Union and won the suit, as you said, because she said that there was something kosher, unright going on in that household as it relates to the kids. And then we look back at today's time in the year 2020, and now we've got Dwyane Wade with his son saying that he wants to be a girl. Now, this is what I want to say again to remind people again, for any haters out there. I'm not, let me just make this very clear again. I am once again not questioning and saying that if you are gay and you are adult and you're gay and you know what you are, this is not what this program is about. We're not sitting up here telling people that they can't be who they want to be. See, this is the thing. D. Darrell, you can relate to this right now, what I'm saying.
Yes.
There's a lot of people on YouTube who are talking about this issue, and they don't have a child. They're not a father. They don't know what it's like to be a father. Me and you do know. I am a father. You are a father. Okay? There's people on YouTube who talk about issues of marriage and ain't never been married before, have no skin in the game.
Nope.
So as a father myself, this issue is personal to a certain level, because as not only a father, but as a man, and when it comes particularly to male children and how male children are, particularly black children, are exploited sexually in this society, and kids in general, it does make me raise my eyebrows. Now, let me go ahead and once again, this isn't about trying to bash anybody because of their sexual preference. You be who you want to be, but we're examining this from a different perspective here. And let me go right into this. This is the issue of what is gender dysphoria, involving a conflict between a person's physical or assigned gender in the gender with which he or she identifies with. People with gender dysphoria may be very uncomfortable with the gender they were assigned by birth, sometimes described as being uncomfortable with their body, particularly development during puberty, or being uncomfortable with the experience or expected role of their assigned gender. Now, I'm going to hold it right there because what I want to do right now, I'm going to hold it right there. I want to say what's up to everybody that's coming in the chat room. We got Sugar Love. We got Sandman. Make sure y'all check out Sandman's channel. He's a powerful gamer out there. We got Sugar Love. Check her out. We got Keith Wisdom that's coming in the house. And Jay Dunn. What's up, Jay Dunn? Peace to you, sister. Thank you for coming over. Let me let me just pull up a couple of names up here to make it easy on myself with reading some of these names. We got D Forbidden Fruit. Haven't seen you in a while, sister, but so glad to see you here. Peace to you. Mata, thank you for being here. We got Wisdom Flower. Thank you. No, Wildflower Wisdom. I'm sorry. I hope I hope there's no popping sound. And if you are hearing popping sound, I apologize. This StreamYards be tripping sometimes. Faith is in the house. Thank you for being here. Let's see who else is in the house. Let me see. BT is coming in the house. Oh, Poetic Celts is coming in the house. Thank you for being here. Everybody that's come in, thank you. Thank you. As I see people, I will shout you out. I haven't done a lot of shout out because this is a very sensitive issue and we need to deal with this material. Now, D. Darrell. Brother.
Yes, sir.
You heard the definition that I spoke of about gender dysphoria. What is your clinical opinion about that? Comes out of the clinical textbook of it all, but what is your opinion about that as it relates to his son? Do you think that that's what's happening with his son at this moment or at this time?
I actually think that, man, because when I think of this, I think of gender identity disorder. I think of gender dysphoria. I'm going to say potentially, based on what I know now. I hate to do a clear point clinical impression without actually interviewing or having enough information. Right. Be honest with you from an ethical standpoint, but I'm going to say that from hearing the information that we have now, I would definitely look at gender dysphoria in a sense, for the fact of the extremity of wanting to be the opposite sex. And one of the features, if you look at it, is to not want to have the one, sexual, organ that defines what a male is, and to want to be something else. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is what I was looking at, the fact that, see, what we're looking at now, and this is me looking at it from a clinical perspective. This problem did not start where he's 11 years old now.
12. He's 12 years old.
Yeah, he's 11 or 12. I think
he's 12 years old.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. From what I understand and what's been publicized in media,
yeah, he's 12 years old.
Yeah, he's 12 years old. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is what we're seeing is the developmental mindset of this kid, in which at the age of 3 he began to want to associate and align himself more with the female gender. And the thing about it is, when he became infatuated with the female gender and he talked to his family about it, or Dwyane Wade about it, they openly allowed this kid to do it. They never deterred. I think his name is Zaire or something. Or
yes.
Okay. They never tried to deter him to do other masculine things. Nor do I think Dwyane Wade provided a strong masculine presence in the home. And that goes back to him wanting to be more in a submissive role from a personality standpoint. So this kid probably saw more positive attributes from being the female as opposed to being the male. Now, this was he's 12 years old. So this is like 9 years in the making. Eventually, if you're allowed to play with dolls and do all the little feminine things and get your nails done and all these other different things and so on, eventually there's going to be question in regards to, do I want these bodily organs?
Right.
But also you have to look at the psychotechnology that is presented within our community now, and on media, in which you can go on various YouTube sites, you can go on various shows, particularly TLC and so forth, where there are reality shows in which there are advertised examples of people making transitions that are quote unquote what we perceive as living a happy, functional life.
Right.
So this kid internalizes that. And again, it goes back to, we human beings tend to want to do things if they know that it won't have a negative effect on them or consequences. So all of these things are internalized by this kid before he made that decision. He just didn't wake up. I want everybody to understand, his son did not wake up one day and just decided, even though he had somewhat, atypical, what we would consider not typical behaviors of a male and wanting to be female or thinking so on. He just didn't wake up doing this. This was a gradual process that this young man developed over time. And so now that he's becoming into puberty and so forth, and you're seeing bodily changes that are happening to him.
Let me say something to you as well. I got to ask you this question, but let me give a shout out to Fredo Knows Best for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat. Let me ask you this question.
Yes, sir.
I was on a panel with BMT and a few other brothers on there, and I think Classic Groovy came on, and we talked about a little bit about this issue. And I asked Classic Groovy, where did you learn the role? Where did you learn your cues in terms of being a female, or sashaying, as we were calling it? Walking down, walking and sashaying like this. And at first I thought it was her mother, but she said it really wasn't her mother. It was really the relationships or the other females in her life, friends or cousins or other females that were in her surroundings, where she began to realize that she kind of enjoyed walking and sashaying and all of that, because one of the things that we do know with kids and child development is that kids are impressionable. They watch what they do. Everything that we know about the world that we live in is by what we see, what we experience, and what we are exposed to.
Exactly.
Okay. So just like when they say, when you see, and I know this for a fact, when I deal with guys in the prison system who are rapists, 9-10 times in their record, they were molested themselves. And they say that most rapists or people that are abused tend to be abusers themselves. And most of the guys that I've looked at, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of guys, that's what was in their record. So, and then there's people who have even admitted, as much as we want to say that people may be or could be born gay, quote unquote, there are a lot of people that say that one of the reasons why they are gay or homosexual, whatever you want to call it, is because they experience someone of the same sex molesting them. So these are very real things. Now, then there are people who say, well, I knew I was gay or I was this way when I was 3 and 2 years old. And what I've always tried to understand is that when you look at child development, and see, this is why people who talk about this stuff who don't have kids don't know what they're talking about sometimes. A child is not born knowing and having a concept of sex.
Nope.
At 3 and 2 years old.
Nope.
You don't have a concept of sex. You don't have any, because these are all social constructs that we learn, right? You're a boy, you're a girl, right? Most kids don't have a sense of what they are sexually when they're first born anyway, to be able to identify that I'm a girl. It's not until they actually get older that they begin to get those social cues that this is what you are. And then people act on the roles. And then of course, there's biology that kicks in as well.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm going to stop there, but let me say what's up to someone who just gave me another super chat. And I appreciate that, from Faith. She says this. Let me just read her. Just what she's saying to you, brother D. Darrell. Faith says, D. Darrell, my nephew watched someone on YouTube pretending to hang himself. Oh my God.
It's crazy.
And he went to school mimicking what he saw on social media.
Crazy.
This is the perfect example. So let me say, thank you for the super chat, sister.
Thank you for the super chat.
And thank everybody who's coming to the chat room. Let me say peace to Back to the Basics that's in the house. Let me see who else is in the house. Let me it's going to be very difficult for me to keep up with the chat room today because me and brother D. Darrell have so much to unpack here. Then we got Vlogs that's in the house. Genre Vlogs, thank you for being here. Casper 78694, where you been, man? Peace for being here. Alexander, what's up, brother Alexander? Peggy Roster's coming to the house. Your virtual assistants coming to the house. Who else is in? Brother BMT. I'm gonna probably have to at some point. So BMT, you got to stick around. Don't go running off nowhere, because you know I'm going to send you a link to have you come up here eventually. But until then, let me finish diagnosing this whole thing with brother D. Darrell, and eventually I'm going to send you a link, brother BMT, because you yourself has admitted that you have been that you were molested and you had things that happened to you that you still struggle with every day. Now, let me give this disclaimer again for the sake of everything. We're not trying to say that people that identify themselves as gay, lesbian, what have you, this is not about telling you what to do with your lifestyle. Do what you want to do. You're a grown person. We're not talking about that. We're dealing with this on an adolescent level. And I do understand that there are people that grow up as kids and they say to themselves, I've always known that I was gay. Totally understand that. But we're still trying to examine this. Now, D. Darrell, if you can remember some of the things that I ran off at the mouth about,
okay,
you want to unpack any of the things that I said or question anything that I brought up, go right ahead.
Well, you pretty much covered. I mean, I was pretty much in agreement with everything that you're stating, and you're alluding to a lot of the mental processes in regards to what a child mimics or what a child sees. And so when I look at it from a clinical standpoint, I look at the theory of the social learning theory, modeling. Basically, what we're talking about is modeling, the powerful effect of social modeling, okay, in which someone is presenting behaviors and they're directly or indirectly teaching someone. And kids are very susceptible to their environment because parents are the first teachers, the first ones to model for their children what they're supposed to be. So if you are being modeled certain things, or you're being exposed to certain things per se, in regards to what Dwyane Wade's first wife stated, it as a child, you experiencing these things, you begin to internalize it, and then you start to, and this is me saying this based on my experience with those who have experienced some type of sexual experience at that age. Okay. I've dealt with incest in this type of situation. I've dealt with family members that have done these type of things, which usually is the largest percentage of those who do experience some type of sexual abuse. It's usually by a close family member, in which they're exposed to these things and are seeing these things, and then they begin to model it. I mean, have you ever done play therapy? Have you ever facilitated play therapy?
Yeah, actually, my background, I used to work in a program where we worked with kids that were literally booted out of elementary school, and we had play therapists that would come in. Matter of fact, that where I work with music therapists and drama therapists and various therapy, and also art therapy, check this out, D. Darrell, and I'll be
Yes.
short.
Go
And
ahead.
you know this to be a fact. I worked with kids once, with some kids once. Do you know, and everybody, this is important for you to understand this. When art therapy, you can tell what a kid is going through at home by the way they draw their art, the way they draw a house, the way they draw anything. Whatever is happening to you in terms of trauma comes out in your creative expression. Same thing in play therapy. Go right ahead, D. Darrell.
Yes. So and I'm glad you alluded to that, because that I do a lot of that. I work in the foster care. I have contracts with the foster care system in this state, in the state of Texas. Play therapy to me is one of the most effective ways, because every kid, depending on what age, they're not as verbally astute as older adults and so on. But you can get more out of children just by seeing how they play, the use of dolls, the use of art, in a sense, as a creative way to allow them to express themselves. And through that, the kids, through the tools of play therapy or art or even music, they can, in somewhat, you can create a script in which they will show and demonstrate what they experience. And they'll do it without even thinking about it, because they basically internalize these experiences. And when you're asking them, okay, so-and-so, show me what goes on at your house at 9 o'clock, like at night. What do you see at 9 o'clock at night? And then at 9 o'clock at night, they're drawing a bed with them sleeping, and an adult coming in their room doing stuff. You understand what I'm saying? These are the type of things that a kid will think about, and then this kid will basically freely express what they go through. Or you'll see kids with dolls enacting other adults having sex, or someone doing that to them. And so when you alluded to the fact of, in regards to the sexual abuse that occurs in that particular community, we want to talk about things that are taboo. That is something that people don't like to talk about. We don't want to talk about the psychosocial development, or the psychosexual development of these people. See, there has to be environmental causes of things. It's not just and I'm not trying to go against what people think they were born. What they're really saying is that they cannot plausibly explain the initial environmental stimuli that encourage them to start thinking and feeling in this way, because it probably happened early in their childhood, where they can't they can't recall those things. And that's why they'll say, I've always been like that. It's not the fact, and I'm not here again. We're not here to say what you can and can't be, but me looking at it from a psychotherapist, I have to look at those. I have to look at those initial indicators, that the fact that you don't remember that someone did this, or you saw porn at an early age routinely in your household, or the fact that you witnessed and caught people having sex and doing other type of things. All of those things create a mental picture, and they stay in your mind, and it causes you to question or even think about those things recurrently. So these are things that I'm gonna be honest with you, I have provided therapy to an array of people of various demographics that would classify themselves as being gay or lesbian, and I've also provided therapy for gay and lesbian couples. Mostly, particularly for me, I don't usually get a lot of men that come in for therapy, but I've had a lot of female couples that have came in to therapy for their relationship issues. And when I uncover those things, almost 65 to 70% of the time, either one or more or both, they're going to say that was some level of sexual misconduct that they either saw, witnessed, or they experience physically. So this has to be looked at. And I'm not trying to tell somebody that this means that you're going to, because there are tons of people who had those experiences that decide not to go that route as far as their sexuality. But that is a factor that we cannot just dismiss or put to a side because you just think that because I'm saying these things, that means to be true. One of the other things I want to identify that is a great indicator of the fact that of the situation with Dwyane Wade's son and Dwyane himself is the fact that your child tells you what they want to be called. They're telling you that they want to no longer be considered something that they were born as. And you willfully just agree with that. No discussion. Not that you understand what I'm saying? You see, that's another example. Like you because in the articles and the things that I've read, when their son came out to have this, it wasn't really a discussion. It was more about, I have to talk to you all. They wanted to listen, which I do, and I commend them for just listening, because a lot of parents tend to not want to listen to their children, but they did open themselves up to make their son comfortable, which I do commend them on doing that. But the fact of the matter, he laid out a life-changing decision, and they just willfully just said, okay, we support you.
Right. Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and say what's up and peace and love to Sonia C's. We've got Wildflower Wisdom back in the house. Peggy Roster back in the house. Faith. Let me say peace to everybody. I think Sister Corners was in the house. Let me say this once again, because I need to say this. We're not trying to negate people who say, because you're going to find people who say, well, I was never molested.
Yes.
I always felt that I liked girls, as a girl, but I like boys as a boy. You're going to have people who say that. And I'm not here, RD Derail here, to try to tell you what you felt like if you were not a person else. That's not what we're trying to do here. We are coming at this, of course, as men, giving our perspective also as fathers. But I think as Black men, we are seeing something in American society that is alarming to us. And that is, historically and currently now, there is, in our opinion, in my feelings, not my opinion, what I'm seeing, there is a continued onslaught when it comes to the masculinity of young Black males. That is a fact. You can go back in the historical record of how things have happened in movies, exploitation films, on and on and on. What I want to do, let me first identify a few things, Brother D. Derail. Let me go just to put more clarity to where we're going at. Okay, sexual orientation. It is an inherent, enduring emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to other people. That's sexual orientation. So it is your inherent feelings towards other people, romantically or sexually, being attracted to other people. That's sexual orientation. That's defined. Gender identity is one's innermost concepts of self as male, female, a blend of both, neither, how individuals perceive themselves and what they call themselves. One's gender identity can be the same or different from their sexual assigned at birth. That's true, because you've got men, or men in particular, who like to dress in women's clothing, or who like to see themselves as a female, but they don't necessarily want to be with there's men who may see themselves as a female but may not want to be with men, still are sexually attracted to women. So there's a whole lot of different layers to this cake when we talk about people's orientation, because gender and sexuality and some of this stuff is not as different. Now, gender expression is the external appearance of one's gender identity. So let's say D Darrell, that Wade's son may see himself as female, may want to be called female, but may not necessarily have a desire sexually, as I said in the sexual orientation part, to be with men, but still may have sexual attraction to females. That's very possible. That's very possible.
I'm gonna say in this case, it's not
Okay.
possible, and I'm gonna give you the reason why.
Okay, let me look. Stay right there, and let me finish these definitions. I'm gonna come to you. And we can unpack that. Okay. So having individual perception of themselves as what they call themselves, one's gender identity can be the same or different from their sex assigned at birth. Now we got gender expression. As I said before, gender expression could be about how you dress, your haircut, your voice, your comfort zone socially, how you define yourself socially, behavior, characteristics, typical things that we associate with being either masculine or feminine, everybody. Now, transgender is an umbrella term for people whose gender identifies or expresses is different from the culture expectations based on the sex they were assigned at birth. Being transgender does not mean specifically sexual orientation, as I had said before. Therefore, transgender people may identify as straight, gay, lesbian, or bisexual. Now, gender transition is the process by which some people strive to be more closely aligned with their internal knowledge of gender with the outward appearance. Some people socially transition whereby they might begin dressing, using names, pronouns, and or be socially recognized as another gender, or other undergone physical transitions such as a surgery. And we had Bootsy out there talking about, Dwyane, don't let your son cut it off. Well, that's not actually what the son at this particular time, at least what we know, is actually happening. But and then, of course, gender dysphoria, which is a critical, significant distress caused when a person assigned birth gender is not the same as the one with which they identify with. Let me stop it right there. I gave you some of the definitions, everybody out there. I thought that it was important. Some of these different sexual orientations, sexual identifications that people use in today's society. Now, with that said, let me go over to Brother D. Darrell. And D. Darrell, you wanted to unpack something that I said, or go right ahead?
Okay. Now, notice when we're looking at, but before I go into that, I wanted to make a note that in Dwyane Wade's son, he actually and I wanted to make this point of notice, the fact that when he came to his family and told them that he wanted to be identified as a girl. Now, because when you're looking at the fact that when we're talking about gender identity or gender dysphoria, they're talking about, as far as the gender dysphoria kind of focuses on the body parts itself, the physicality changes. Now, in regards to him saying that, he also stated to them, and he used the label, because when he used this label, they brought up the fact of him being, as far as liking, not as far as being gay. Now, this 12-year-old kid had the mindset to tell his family verbatim, I am not gay. I am a transsexual girl. Okay? So in his own essence, I'm not really gay. I am a girl I'm a straight girl that likes boys.
Okay.
Now you understand that. I just wanted to point out that to give more clarity in regards to the mindset of this child, because he does not see himself as gay. He sees himself as a straight female.
So wait a minute. So under the definitions that I presented to everyone, then does that mean he falls under gender identity? Where would he fall under?
In my position, I would say he falls more into gender identity.
Okay.
Because of how he identifies himself. Now, the problem with that, and I hate to say this, is that it's not real. And again, I'm not saying this to tell people that you shouldn't want to choose to be what you want to be. And again, and you've repeated this throughout the story today. We're not trying to tell people what's wrong, or we're trying to give scientific clarity and our experience as clinicians to point how these things develop over time. Now, the fact that he had the state of mind to say, I am not gay, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am a transsexual female. Now, that says two things to me.
Well, wait a minute. Let me stop you there, though. Remember, to be transsexual technically means that one is in transition or possibly going to transition, whether it be body parts. I know there are people that are transsexual who never get the surgery in between their legs. There's some that get the surgery because they want to be completely a woman. And then there's some who actually don't want the surgery at all. They still like having their a male penis, right?
Exactly.
So the question is, then does he, if he falls under gender identity, because most people that are transgender, some people that are transgender, they don't tend to be on hormones, versus people that are transsexual, you will find some of them that may be taking hormones going into their transition to be completely a female if they desire that, or getting implants for breasts or what have you. So right now, when we look at him, we still see him as a boy, but he's wearing what we would call tight feminine clothing. And help me to unpack this, D. Darrell.
Basically, this is the issue. I mean, my thing is this. This is, to me, very problematic. That I'm going to say that this family needs therapy. They need family therapy. They need as much psychoeducation about this. Okay. And I don't think that they are getting the psychological needs taken care of. I don't think that they're getting the therapy and things that are needed. Mm-hmm. I just think that they're kind of swinging it because they feel, because of who they are, the stature that they are, and because the society is as open as it is, this is okay. And everything is going to be all right, and there's not going to be any negative consequences that will come from this.
D. Darrell, now you just opened up something that I would ask you real quick. Do you believe, brother, that society overall is more accepting of Dwyane Wade's decision as a father as it relates to his son because he is a celebrity and black? Because like I told you, historically, when black people get into experimenting with different things, the larger society doesn't have a problem with us experimenting with stuff like sex and lifestyle and drugs. It's only when we start talking like we're Malcolm X, when then they have a problem with that. So
hold on 1 second, brother. Give me 1 second, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So right, D. Darrell will be back in just a moment, but that's my question, everybody. Is D. Darrell getting a pass because of the fact that he is a ex-basketball player, a celebrity, and people love D. Darrell? If this was just an everyday average family with no money, no celebrity, society be as celebratory towards the decision? Because we do tend to accept who in their decisions with their family because they're a celebrity.
I'm back.
You kind of heard, you know where I'm going with this. Do you think part of what I said, him being black, him being a celebrity, society is going to be more forgiving of what he wants to do with his child?
Okay. I think that, be honest with you, Dwyane Wade, society is playing into this because, yes, because he is an athlete, and because, again, we are used as the guinea pigs
Right.
when people are trying to push a certain agenda. But I really think that the bigger thing of this is that we're playing into the hands of white supremacy, which is the bigger thing, in which we are allowing. If you follow the eugenics movement and so forth, it's falling in the hands of trying to depopulate the world, and part of that is to present the image of our people slowly not reproducing because they're engaging in same-sex relationships. So that goes hand in hand. That's what I, from a personal standpoint, that's what I feel is going on. So in our essence, research shows that of all demographics of people, Black people have a tendency to model entertainers of the same race as any other group. And you know this as well. That's called identification. When we identify with people, we tend to want to mimic what they do, good and bad, more than any other group of people. And so again, this is evidence. This is what we're seeing now is evident to the fact of, if we want to socially engineer certain behaviors to yield certain things in the community, we're going to present a popular, this Dwyane Wade is I mean, before all this started happening, but Dwyane Wade was well conceived in our community. He was an NBA player from the hood, from South Chicago, married to a Black woman, got Black children, wealthy, so-and-so, won NBA championships. There are a lot of people that would like to be Dwyane Wade. So they have an emotional tie
to him,
to Dwyane Wade.
Right. Let me
so in doing that,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to read off because there's a few folks who have made some really interesting statements. We got Casper 78694. He says exactly why kids should be raised in the traditional sense so that they get the chance to develop their mind and then choose later instead of making harsh changes that they regret later on. I think that's a very good point because, like I said earlier to you before we went on live, that his son is still a minor.
Yes.
And we can't, I mean, I grew up at a time where kids were to be silent, to be seen but not heard. When grown folks are talking, you shut your mouth and you model. I mean, he is still a minor.
Yes.
And you still have to be very delicate with these type of decisions. Now, Sonia Sees, who I love, who's been following me since the very beginning, she says, true, our celebrities have far more power over our community. That's why the Jews took control of our culture. Okay, that's what she's saying. Peace to you. Let me read another one. Let's see. We got Sugar Love is in the house. Love her. Peace to you, Sugar Love. Let me get your, I think she had a statement or... Let me see. This is deeper. This is a spiritual warfare fight against principalities. You got great points there. I would agree with that. It is a fight over the minds and hearts of our children. Let's see. BT, Black men are modeling dresses as if it is the norm. Now, I have to be honest, D. Durrell, not to get us too far off. You're familiar with the actor. Is the name Porter something? The actor who showed up to the Oscars about a year ago.
Multiple occasions he's done that. Yes.
Okay, now he said something that was very disturbing to me. He took a lot of slack for showing up at the Oscars in a tuxedo dress.
Yes.
And when it was brought to his attention that a lot of Black men weren't happy with that, he sort of said, he sort of stuffed his nose at Black men and said, you know what? Because y'all hating on me and you don't like it, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep, if I'm affecting the Black male masculinity by doing this, I'm going to continue doing this. And I find that very problematic because history has shown us that they've always have been able to find someone, like you said, to engage in these sort of
gangs,
do these sort of things
yes,
with the goal of destroying the masculinity of black men, because there is a fear of our masculinity historically and in this society overall. When I look at television and movies, it seems that every time they have black male characters, they are sort of, for the lack of a better word, Brother D. Darrell, they're sort of neutered to a certain
Yep.
degree. Now, I want to go back to the point that you were making, brother. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no
And
problem.
after you make those points, I want to get into another area of our presentation that is going to be a lot for everyone to swallow, because I've got audio and I've got some slides, some pictures to show you, because this whole thing about black male sexuality and the way black children's sexuality has been betrayed in American society goes way, way back to slavery.
Yes.
So go ahead in the points that you were trying to where you were going before I had cut in, brother. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, I was pretty much discussing in regards to sexuality, and as far as the identification, the power of identification in our community, because we tend to model and copy the behaviors of those that are deemed successful in our society as a people, because we don't have the wealth and the things like that, or as much as other groups. We tend to gravitate to those who accomplish that, and pretty much throughout our history, the people who were able to obtain the wealth the quickest, in a sense, are those that are in entertainment and sports and things of that sort. So we deem them as pillars of the society, good or bad. And so the danger of that is that because we hold these people to such high esteem, they're utilized as tools through white supremacy to basically shape or to deter us into or manipulate us, in a sense, to engage in behaviors that may be detrimental to our existence. Now, when we're talking about Mr. Porter, Mr. Porter is not only a gay black male, but he also has another characteristic of the fact that he is married to a white man. So this person is not, in a sense, connected to our community. He also chose to date outside of our community. So and like many people that do it, I don't want to get into the swirling or the interracial dating aspect, but a lot of people that a large percentage of people that do go and date outside the community do have ill feelings of the community that they're dating out.
Well, what they normally do, which is a problem, D. Darrell, is that this not even about your sexuality. You can find this with black men who date outside their race and black women.
Exactly.
They'll go and date outside their race, and then in turn they'll talk about the black community like a dog.
Exactly.
And that's not right. Now let me just say this about Billy
that's
Porter.
Evident of him.
Right. This is what I gotta say about Billy Porter. This once again, I gotta say this again as a disclaimer. Billy Porter can be with whoever he wants to be, man, woman, he can be gay. That's not the issue. My issue with Billy Porter, and just overall this whole issue, is when people like Billy Porter purposely tell you that their goal is to destroy the black male's image because of their sexuality, just because they don't like our criticism. And the bottom line is, in this society, no matter what your sex, your race, sex, what have you, you're going to take some criticism, and you got to have thick skin. If you're going to be in the public eye, as he is, then that comes along with the course. You're going to get criticized. Yes. In terms of what he does in the bedroom, who he wants to be with, that's his business. Okay. But I have a problem when people are personally targeting to try to destroy or campaign to try to present our image and say that they're purposely going to do things to try to attack black males in our image. That's where I draw the line with that. That's a big problem. Now, when it relates to Dwyane Wade's son, at the end of the day, his son will grow up and he can be whoever he wants to be as an adult. That's his business.
Yes.
But as a man, when it comes to fatherhood, manhood, as a father, we have to ask the ultimate question. Do I, as a parent, allow my child to live an alternative lifestyle when they're doing something that is an adult decision, and they're not an adult? And we know that in child development, that a child's brain or a person's brain does not develop until way after 25 years of age in development as a human. These are the realities, brother.
Yes, but see, the thing about it is that, again, his son came to them and told him what he was going to do and how he was going to do it, and they willfully accepted it.
Okay. And that's on them.
Yeah. So my thing is, I hear what we're saying, and to me, again, there was no, and then the thing about his purpose, Dwyane Wade stated after having, because this was on Ellen, he felt that at this point, okay, my son is part of this community, so I'm going to go out and educate and get as much information from that community on what we should do.
Right.
Okay. Now this kid's 11 years, and you basically took in. Now, I'm not here trying to question somebody's the way you go about parenting and tell you how to parent your children, but regardless of its sexuality or anything else, I'm going to say parents, that effective parents in some way control the narrative of what their children do and say. They may listen, they may be empathetic, they may compromise, they may negotiate, they may do all those different things. But as a parent, you have to control the narrative.
Right.
I don't see control. I see it being a situation where we're going to freely allow our kids to do and do whatever they want, and we're going to try to just hone it down a little bit, and whatever happens, we're going to be okay with it.
Right. For example, D. Darrell,
yes.
If your son, and this happened to me growing up too, if your son, if your son is clearly likes girls, for example.
Yes.
And this goes both, folks, we're not sitting up here trying to bash on people that are gay. This goes for heterosexuals as well. If you got a daughter or a son who is clearly heterosexual, they like the opposite sex, and they're telling you, I want to have my girlfriend over here and have sex in the house. Hell, when I was a kid, when you would have intimacy with girls as a guy, you was doing it when your mama was at work. You would be sneaking around.
Yeah.
Because why was you sneaking around? Because you knew that your parents would not accept you even having heterosexual sex in the household. Matter of fact, you would have parents that would tell you, hey, you can't be going out here having sex. You're going to be we ain't going to be taking care of no babies. So even when I was growing up, even as a heterosexual kid or guy or teenager, or, when it came to parents back in the day, they wasn't having you having sex in the house when they're not at home. They wasn't having you trying to, they would always tell you, don't be getting people pregnant. That was a big problem back in the 80s with teenage pregnancy, right? And I don't know how many of you out there in the chat room had situations where you were in the house getting busy and your parents came in and busted you. and that happened to me. That happened to me, D. Darrell.
I had close calls, but it never happened.
Yeah, that happened to me. And then hell, and you still get your ass whipped by your parents.
Exactly. For doing heterosexual behavior.
Exactly. I had to make that point, brother. I had to make that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, brother. Yeah.
But it's real. That's real. That is real. So we have to look at the fact of the level of boundaries that a parent has to present to their children. Okay. Now there's no boundaries here. What I'm saying is you just allow your children to do whatever, and in some way you try to hone it down in a sense in which you're going to accept whatever they want to do, but you're going to present avenues in which and how they're going to do it.
Right.
There's no, I'm going to provide, I'm going to provide a teachable moment to you. There's no level of correction. There's no level of you determining certain things. And this goes beyond this goes beyond the sexuality part of it. This is the fact of the matter. The issue really is about you allowing a 12-year-old to make adult decisions for themselves. And like you stated, they're not, from a mental developmental standpoint, psycho-developmental standpoint, able to make these decisions effectively. And you're going along, you're allowing kids to make this decision, and you're supporting them through something that a 12-year-old child really shouldn't even be thinking about. To be honest, you got school. Your main objective should be school, your family, friends, recreational activities, and so
right. Like for
example, with your sexuality, and I don't care if I had a 12-year-old son telling me he wanted to have sex. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You think I'm going to sit? Okay, well,
right.
Obviously you want to have sex, so I'm just going to give, and you can just have a free for all. You know what I'm saying? You're not presenting anything as a parent, because you, with the prior knowledge of things, have to provide a guide. Right. I don't see them providing a guide. They're just allowing things to happen just to make the child feel comfortable.
Right. Because as a parent, for example, if you got a daughter, this is a thing that fathers have to deal with too. When you have a daughter and your daughter wants to date, and let's be honest, there is some bias as how we deal with our daughters versus our sons. Yes. Let's just keep it 100% real. Biases. But if you got a daughter who's 12 years old, who's telling you, Daddy, I got a boyfriend, I want to date, I want to do all these things, as a parent, you have to make a decision, an intelligent decision as a parent, and say, is my daughter, is she emotionally ready to date? Is she emotionally able to be having, you gotta ask those questions. You gotta make decisions as a parent. Is this where you want your child's mindset at right now? And we know that kids are having sex. Yes. We know that kids are doing things, especially in this generation, because they're exposed to so much more. And I was telling you earlier, everybody, before we went on, I was telling D. Darrell, we have to look at intergenerational aspects to this. The children that are born today that are in high school, junior high school, like Dwyane Wade's son, these kids today are used to being with kids that are transgender, kids that are into alternative orientation. You got a lot of girls out there that are bisexual, guys that are bisexual. So when you have kids that are growing up in this society where it's more and more acceptable compared to my generation or D. Darrell, that's exactly right. How does that play in? Do you believe that that sort of plays into the role? Two older guys like me and you who grew up at a time where a lot of this stuff was sometimes in the closet. We were told this is not what you're going to do. And in the Black community, it's always been taboo because of religion, that you're going to go to hell, that it goes against God's word. But these kids today, like his son, this is what they're seeing. So how do we fairly make judgment, if we are, when his son and many kids like him are growing up where this is norm? Even if we don't like it, it has become norm to a certain degree with this generation. What is your thoughts?
My thoughts is that the fact of the matter, as parents, you have to control the environment. You have to control the narrative. And now, regardless of what these kids see, and if these kids are more open to thinking that that's okay. But the issue is the fact that in your house, information man, you can control how people gonna function in your house.
Right.
You're not gonna allow anybody to function in your house that you pay for in a way that you don't think is correct, right?
Right.
So if you think your child wants to do something that is not conducive to what you think is effective, as a parent, you have the right to say that. In my house, because I'm living here and I pay and I control this, I have the right to tell you how I want you to function in my house, because I'm taking care of you. You know what I'm saying? But what we saw is that you are yielding to the fact of I'm just going to allow you to do what you want to do.
Right.
And so that it's a difference. Now we could still deal with the fact that you have whatever feelings you have towards the same sex, or whatever you want to do, call yourself, and all those different things. But when it comes to the point where you're wanting, okay, for me, okay, to engage in expensive, well, for them, I mean, they got all the money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're asking me to as a fully functional, sane adult, supposedly, for Dwyane Wade, supposedly, to allow you to make a life-changing, a life-altering decision at 12 years old, that's something totally different. And to the point where I've acknowledged you as something all of your life, but now at 12 years old, you're going to tell me how I am going to acknowledge you as.
Right.
Doesn't that sound a bit like the tables turn? Like I've never heard a child telling you what a parent, what I'm supposed to do for you. That's supposed to be the direct opposite. You know what I'm saying? I have the right to tell my children, I want you to acknowledge me as father, or call me whatever name, or say yes sir, no sir, a certain level of respect.
Mm-hmm.
But in this instance, in this particular case study, because it is a case study, okay, it's a live case study that will be looked upon, in which the child is telling the parent the avenues in which they're going to function,
right,
and the parent just gives into that with no pushback, or nothing, or no. His response is, I just want to learn as much to make you comfortable and learn more about things about that, and learn from so and so. So that's the part that I'm looking at as a parent.
Okay, let me say something. BMT, I'll send you a link in a little bit. And brother Maurice, I see you, brother, from Chicago. If you want to come on board, the link that I send BMT, I'll have him send it to you as well. But D. Darrell, before I bring those brothers on,
sure,
let me get into this part of the presentation.
Yes, sir.
Because we have to understand the historical context of where these alternative lifestyles, where some of this, how this has played a role in the Black community. Now, I know in the Black community, we a lot of times are in denial that we have gay people in our family and our churches. Gay people have been in our life all our life. There's many people that were involved in the civil rights movement that were gay. A James Baldwin was gay. So there have been a lot of gay people, whether you like their lifestyle or not, who have made great contributions to the Black community in their activism. Now, I know there's always an issue over whether people define themselves as gay first or Black. That's always going to be a debate over the sexuality versus your biology as a Black man or Black woman. But let me tell you how some of this has affected us.
Okay.
Let me put this on the screen. I want everybody to look at this image on the screen here. I'm going to tell you what this is in just a moment. Okay. It has a phallic symbol designed to it, but let me tell you exactly what this is and what it was used for with this particular statement here. What is buck breaking? And essentially buck breaking occurred when an angry American slave master thought a slave was being defiant and needed to be taught a lesson. Hence, the African male slave would be forced to lower his pants. This is about buck breaking in its association with sagging of pants. And we know that sagging of pants came out of the prison system. I know this well.
Yes.
Into the rap culture, into the gangster rap culture, in which in prison, it was a way to tell other inmates that you were available for sex. Now, what slave masters would do to the slaves back in these times is that they would have them lower their pants, as I said before, bend forward over a tree stump or something similar with a buttocks propped up in the air, your butt propped up in the air, and the American slave master or someone he appointed to carry out assuring inhumane act would then process to flog the slave amongst the state of unconscious, meaning flogging in that term was basically they would penetrate them until they would fall unconscious. Then things would get worse for the slave as the slave master driven by homosexual desires. Once again, for those of you out there that are gay and this is your lifestyle, this is not about putting you down, but this is historical. This is what they would do to black male slaves, the strongest slaves, the ones that would try to escape from the plantation, the ones that were Malcolm X-like. They would try to break them down in front of their own peers by penetrating them and molesting them sexually. The desires of the slave master would then proceed to rape the slave in front of his kids, his wife, and his friends, while even inviting other white males to join in. This is history, folks. Join in on the unlawful sexual act. It was the ultimate emasculation. See, they've been doing this to us, brothers and sisters, of the African male slave for being defiant to his white slave master. Buck breaking was an ungodly, evil disciplinarian tool employed to strike fear into the hearts of the African male slave, his family, peers, and community alike, and that they were never to challenge their slave master on any level. Often African male slaves who endured such humiliation and brutality would commit suicide or abandon their families altogether. Now, this instrument right here is called a piers, what you're seeing on the screen. And this is what they would insert this in. When they would catch a black male slave doing something, they would insert this into his penis, lock onto the penis. Okay? This is very sensitive stuff here. Let me put this on the screen. Make sure you read this. The Piers Augustus. This device was created by Europeans and was used on slaves in the 1800s. The P, as it was called, was inserted into the male slave, as I said before, the rectum. If he refused sex with his slave master, once the inserted, the key would be turned until it, let's look at this again. It's like a key. It would be turned. See that object? This is history. This is reality, folks. It would be turned until it was fully open, causing major damage or even death as punishment, regardless of the female slaves. It would be used on females as well. If she refused sex, it was inserted into her vagina, my God, causing massive hemorrhage, infertility. And if you were found to be a liar, it was placed into your mouth and it would be cranked up until it broke your jaw. These are some of the realities. Let me pull up another picture here. This is a picture. This is actually a boy. And what they would do, folks, these are what they would call sambos or pickaninnies. The idea of the sambo could be sexualized is not unusual. Black children were often portrayed with exposed genitals and buttocks, often without appearing shame. Moreover, the buttocks were often elongated, meaning made big in size, that is a black child are shown with the buttocks of an adult. Okay, the version of the Sambo, Betty Bell, which you see right here on the screen, is from 1938, is among the youngest portrayal of the Sambo. Unlike the usual Pickaninny caricature, he is not depicted as being overgrown or older for his age. In fact, the look no more than there or for years, looking for than 3 or 4 years old. This representation also depicts other stereotypical Pickaninny caricatures, such as the wide mouth and broad nose. Okay, so this is what they would do. Let me show you some pictures here. These are what they would illustrate. Once again, children with their butts out. And a lot of these were supposed to be boys in particular. Like I said, our sexuality has been attacked historically. And don't tell me that the slavery, the post-traumatic slave syndrome that we went through does not play into some of the stuff that you see going on today. It does play into it. This does not mean that people who want to be with men, women, whatever, that's your business. But you cannot deny that there is a historical context to some of this stuff. So you see this picture portrayed here. Here's another one. Butts out again. Here's another picture. Once again, the buttocks out. He's actually standing up on a toilet. Then you've got this picture right here. Everything will come out. Here's another picture. It's supposed to be a boy. So they oftentimes, historically in this country, put out photos and pictures and commercials and advertisements in this country that was playing upon the sexuality of Black male children and children overall. Now you saw the the instrument that I showed you. You heard me talk about how they would buck break Black men. Now, with that said, I'm going to send a link to Brother BMT, if he's still out there. I want you to send that link to Brother Maurice as well. Let's continue the discussion. I want to have D. Darrell try to break down and examine what I've presented so far in the fashion in which I was able to do it. D. Darrell, from what you heard me break down about buck breaking and some of the depictions that I put on the screen and that instrument that they used that I put on the screen, which I'll put on the screen again, I want to get your honest, emotional feeling about it. Because as a therapist, you know that America has a very, very, very big problem psychologically overall as American society, okay? In the psyche of how this society was built off of our backs. What is your emotional feelings as you see me, as you present this information that I just put on the screen not too long ago, and everyone in the chat as well?
Okay. It's funny you did that because in my training, I went to school at an HBCU, so we were educated on the very imagery that you presented. So it's not something that I'm familiar with that particular tool, so to speak, that was used, and also other things. But emotionally, from my own emotional standpoint, personal, it angers me. But also I understand the lack of treachery that our people had to go through. And you look at the pictures, the subliminal messages that were presented of these kids' buttocks being out like that, attracting pedophiles. I'm also a person that had the privilege of having a grandfather that was 2 generations out of slavery, in which he actually talked about stories when I was a teenager, slave narratives, I would classify it as,
right,
of slave masters raping men and young Black boys. Now, this is something that my grandfather, born in 1902, and his father basically was born maybe 10 years after slavery was ended, and his grandfather was a slave. And these stories were passed on from one generation to another in regards to how we were the bug breaking that took place. So I'm very sensitive to the fact of the fact that I heard stories that would convey in a graphic manner how these slave masters went into these slave quarters and took younger, weaker boys, or even the biggest, strongest one, and took away their masculinity, as if I'm in control. I'm the master. You're not a human. You're not a man. You're a boy. Okay, and so you have to understand that the mindset of a human being, supposedly, to do this to another human being and try to rid them of all their humanity and all their masculinity or any pride that they would have in being a man.
Right.
And then this person has to navigate that trauma and cope with that trauma the rest of their lives amongst their own peers.
Right.
See, this is the level of traumatic events that our people had to endure. Okay, it's beyond our imagination. I know we're looking at it, we're reading this, but the essence to see this in reality, to happen in fruition right before your eyes.
Now, look. I got a fool from Periscope who says here, brother, what the F does this have to do with Dwyane Wade? Now, this is the ignorant. Has a lot to do with Dwyane Wade. And if you've been listening to my program from the beginning, we've been talking about black masculinity and how black men's masculinity has been attacked, and has everything to do with this because of the fact that I talked about children. They used to sexualize black children. Get the heck out of my chat room in Periscope. Get out of here. You're going to ask me some silly question like that. Watch the video over again. Get your butt out of here. I'm sick of that kind. That's nonsense. What does it have to do? Everything that we've been talking about today has been about black male images and how they've been attacked. We've been explaining it the whole damn time in a respectful manner. We've been. Get your butt out of here. Let me go over to the Periscope chat room and block him out of there. Continue, brother D. Darrell.
Okay. So what he's failing to understand is that level of treachery that was, delivered to our people was done in the context of that era. And that level of bug breaking is no different than the things that are done now, but just in different ways. Just more fine-tuned, more evasive ways of doing it, in which is more subliminal. And look at the pictures of the children, okay? And the way that, but also look at the fact that look at the kids that are being paraded around, and as far as the amount of the pedophilia in which there are states right now attempting to decriminalize pedophilia.
Right.
Look at the teachers. That was actually a teacher of an alternative lifestyle. It was a white female that sexually molested a young black girl in the state of Texas. The state of Texas is one of the highest, top 2 or 3 in regards to teachers molesting students. There are several instances of white teachers doing things inappropriately to black kids.
Right. Let me just say this. What's up, citizen man? Let me say this again. Me and brother D. Darrell have taken everything step to step. We addressed the issues of Dwyane Wade. I said in the beginning of this video that I was going to have to bring up some historical issues. When we look at Dwyane Wade's son in terms of his sexuality and what he wants to be, we talked about what is the parent's responsibility. We talked about the clinical ramifications of letting children make adult decisions. And then I told you that I was going to go into historical issues around the fact that when it comes to black male sexuality and children, black children, I showed the pictures and talked about that because that has some origins in the black community. Now, let me say something that is taboo again, brother D. Darrell. We do have situations in the black community, as any community would have, where people grow up and they've been molested by an uncle, a brother, right?
Yes.
And we know that when in historical facts, when black people were molested this way in slave plantations, there were reports that you did start seeing people being raped by other black slaves because of the pain and trauma of being raped themselves. Didn't we just say as clinicians a few minutes ago that there's been proof shown that when people are molested and abused, they also become abusers themselves? So if black people, exactly. So if black people experience this in slavery, you can't tell me that this doesn't impact us today in the 21st century. Dwyane Wade himself has been traumatized, maybe not sexually, but he was traumatized by his mother's lack of love for him. Yeah. So what he went through affected him. So we're bringing that up because it has historical relevance to the discussion. Go ahead, Brother D. Durrell. I just had to say that.
Yes. I like to give another historical perspective that I think is very important. The city of Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh God, yeah, that's whew.
I have to bring that up because for many years, the city of Baltimore historically has led the nation, particularly for black people, in molestation, in ancestral molestation. Our sister Queen Monique grew up in that environment, and she experienced child molestation by her own brother, who probably in turn also probably had some level of molestation. This stuff is real, but see, the problem is that in our community, we keep the secrets. We don't like to talk about it. We don't want to get the help. We tend to want to.
Okay.
Ourselves from white supremacy was to not let people in our business, because when people got our business, things happen, and we haven't been able to, Yeah, but we haven't been able to evolve from that in a sense.
Okay, D. Durrell is I don't know what's happening. D. Durrell is having some technical problems, everybody, but I just want to say, everybody, I hope you get where I'm coming from, what I'm trying to say here. I'm going to say this again, everybody.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just going to make sure you had left. I just was going to say that go right and continue with what you were saying, D. Durrell.
Okay. What I was looking at is that we have to look at the multi-generational process of that particular pathology being handed down from one generation to another, and we in a sense enable it because of the lack of dealing with those issues, are sweeping it under the rug, I may say, from one generation to another, allowing these particular behaviors to go from one particular generation to another. And it doesn't matter whether it's male or female, because there are females who also become the predators. So it's not gender. I don't want us to just keep in mind, look at it strictly from a male predatorial standpoint,
right?
Because there are females who are also molested, or so to speak, who may also do the same thing to another female, or they also may take a younger male, just like you saw in that movie. What was that movie where Denzel Washington was in the
Is it Training Day?
Huh?
Was it Training Day?
No, it wasn't Training Day. It was another one where he played a military guy.
Oh no! Remember, it was in Glory.
Antoine Walker.
Okay.
Antoine, I think it's
that's right. It was Antoine
Fisher.
Basically Antoine Fisher. He was molested by his family members.
Foster sister, who was a lot older than her, and she did that type of behavior to a younger boy. She targeted him, and she molested the young boys that were in that foster care home. So this is a multi-generational thing in which this pathology is handed down from one generation to another, because a lot of times when that uncle or that brother or something did something to that little girl or something, or we gonna sweep that under the rug. We're not gonna talk about it. We just gonna prevent it from happening again. And so now this child has to make sense of the world from a psychological standpoint because they've been violated, and now they're and what I have observed in my therapeutic interaction with people who've experienced this, particularly children, they begin to repeat this behavior in their mind, that traumatic event, trying to figure out whether or not they were supposed to enjoy this particular experience or not.
Right.
They start to wonder, am I supposed to enjoy as a boy, enjoying being touched or enjoy being used in this way by another boy, or a girl saying to herself, am I supposed to enjoy this? And so in all actuality, subconsciously, they start seeking ways to attract that same sex to enjoy it.
Right.
And now this is not me saying this. This is something that a lot of my clients, particularly those who had those experiences from their earliest recollection, meaning I'm gonna say between the ages of, let's say, 5 years old to 10 or something like that. These are some of the consistent questions that they ask of themselves. And in many instances, they will repress those thoughts and black out and don't remember things till years later.
Right.
I have clients that have been molested and had traumatic events that they don't remember anything in their childhood.
Right.
It's been totally blacked out. And then slowly, as they began to heal from themselves, they began to recall and recount all of those different things that happened in sequence, over time.
Right.
So this is a heavy problem in our community because we sweep under the rug our pathology instead of trying to deal with it.
And this is, let me play this real quick. And BMT, I left you a link. I wanted you to send that link to Maurice as well. If you want to come up, brother. If you don't, I understand if you're busy today. But this is where the pathology comes from in our history. Let me play this real quick for everybody.
A ship full of African men, women, and children who were at the mercy of the captain and all the sailors on that crew. And those men could have sex with anybody they wanted to. The women, the children, and the men.
You had to see 3 months tied down with these white men. There ain't no women there for the most part. When they start bringing women, they weren't even bringing women. They were bringing girls between the ages of 6 and 15 and raping them all. But they also were raping the men. Same things are happening on the plantation to demasculinize the black man.
Information is power.
That's the key of what I've been trying to say, is to demasculize. And it makes me, and that's why I think that a lot of us, like myself, D. Darrell, many others, this is why our eyebrows kind of raise up when we see what's happening with D. Darrell and his son. Dwyane Wade has the right. He is the father. He has the right to do what he think he wants to do with his son, whether wrong or right. But we have to understand where the pathology comes from that impacts us in this way. Now, D. Darrell is not on the panel with me, so I don't know what happened, what pulled him off. But what I want to do until he comes back on, or I can get him back on, is I want to play an audio of Dwyane Wade's ex-wife, because we had said earlier that there was something going on in the household because his wife was suing Gabrielle Union for some misconduct that was happening in the house that her kids were being exposed to. So let me go ahead and play that audio for everyone out there to hear. This is very powerful.
We're going to talk with Kieta. Today, I am interviewing Savon Wade, the ex-wife of NBA player Dwyane Wade. Savon, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to your lovely home. I was just wondering out of curiosity, and I'm so thankful that you invited me. You could have invited anybody, because I'm sure you want to hear what you have to say. Because in the media, this thing has played out to be real ugly, to be honest with you. But I've never heard your version. I've never seen pretty much anywhere where you've made comments. And what made you decide to actually give your version and your account of what your truth is? Well, I believe now I've overcome fear. You were afraid. Yes, I was. So when did you actually meet Dwyane? We met when we were like the 5th grade. And so you all became immediate friends? Yes. So you wasn't, that was like your little buddy, like you liked him in 5th grade. You all were just friends in 5th grade, but I didn't like him then, but we were friends, yes. Okay. And so as the years progressed, your relationship obviously turned to something romantic. When did you actually start dating Dwyane? I think that I probably was 15 or 16 years old when we actually started dating. Wow. So you all been together for a you all worked together for a long time. Yes, we were. And during that time, when he was 15 and younger, what was the personality like? And what were you like during that time? I think I was pretty outgoing, very funny, and friends. We were friends. Although I was a female, he was a male. I was able to, interact with him like one of his male friends. One of the guys, and he was, loving then, and he was very, I would say, maybe soft-spoken, very humble, at that time. And during that time, from I read some things, he pretty much had a tumultuous childhood. I read that his mother was in and out of prison. His father was abusive to his stepmother. How did you play a role in actually helping to soothe him or calm him or to connect with him on that level? Well, at that time, when he finally did confide in me about what was happening in his home and what happened with his mom, he wasn't living with her at that time, about drug use and out of prison. The abuse was pretty bad in his house. And one night it got really bad, and his sister, his younger sister, that came to my home probably at like 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and I opened the doors, and that's when I basically had to tell my mom what I knew about what was happening in his home and what was going on. Because I had to explain to her why he was coming to the door at that hour, at 16 years old. And so I had spoken with my mom. And I told her what was happening, and I asked her, is there any way that he can stay with us and not have to live in that kind of environment? And your mother approved of this. Yes, she did. So during this time, too, from my understanding, you all were dealing with the tragedy yourselves. Yes, you were. You lost your biological sister. Yes, the only sibling. Did I say that? Yes. So to me, it would seem as though that I can see that you come close, especially if that was one of your close friends, the way he's confiding in you. I know that you felt extremely close to him to tell him certain things and to confide in him. Did that bring you all closer together? It absolutely did. I would say at that time that that was my very best friend, which is what, and while he was my best friend and I was his, that's what made us confide in each other about things that, weren't that easy to speak about or didn't have other people at the time, to trust with that sort of important things that was going on. Do you mind going about bringing your mom out to speak to us about Dwyane living with you? Not at all. Okay. Ms. Conscious, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm going to stop that right there because I know there's some crackling sound on that. But basically, in the audio, you can find that audio on YouTube. It is an interview with Savon, which was the first wife of Dwyane Wade. The mother came on and she talked about Dwyane Wade when he was a kid in his last year or second year of high school, one of the two, that he came to her door with garbage bags in hand saying to her, did you mean what you said when you said that you would take me in? And she raised him as her own. She taught him, nourished him, the whole 9 yards. And eventually, as you know, they became estranged from each other. Something happened. There was an event where Dwyane Wade was there with Savon, her mother, at some event, someplace. And he, in this interview, they say that he would not speak to them, particularly would not speak to the mother. And they had said that he was not the man that they thought he was, that he had changed from the man that he was before, that he started acting funny. And they were very taken back by how disrespectful he was when she clothed and fed him and did things for him when he could not do for himself. This was the mother of his first wife, Savon. So this is the young lady who we heard some years ago was out on the streets of Miami, sort of calling Dwyane out, saying, you know, she's an NBA mother who's in the streets. People thought that she was crazy, but it comes out that some of her behavior came out of the fact that Dwyane Wade had some issues. And so now that I brought that up, I'm sorry that there was some popping in the audio. Let me open up the floor to who's on with us right now, and Brother D. Darrell. What's going on, BMT?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm glad to have you here.
Okay.
You've had a chance to kind of listen to the conversation, the analysis. Me and Brother D. Darrell have taken very, we've talked about this issue in as delicate as way as we can, as in professional as we can, as well as in personal as we can, because it is a very controversial and very delicate issue to talk about, because there's people out there who are gay, who live different lifestyles, and we don't want to be disrespectful to them, but we do need to address some issues around. We talked about what gender is, we defined it, what gender dysphoria is. We kind of covered a lot of stuff in terms of clinically. But I wanted to bring you on because I know that you are a brother who's had some experience, and you were making good comments in the chat room. What is your thoughts about some of what you've heard us talk about today, brother?
Well, we already know about 2 of his children have been sexually molested. They were sexually molested, and pretty much that's why he has custody of the children. And so now it's a big thing when it comes to the Black community. We're not properly equipped, or we haven't properly well been at. We're not really good at when it comes to dealing with trauma, abuse, sexual trauma, and traumatization and abuse. We're just not good at that. I hate when we get the term prayed away, or you know what I'm saying, or oh, you're gay or something. It's like, yo, dude, there's so many ladders of reasons of why these things are happening. Like, yeah, but I get it. That's why I don't so much get angry anymore, because I'm like, unless you're there in my world, then you wouldn't understand. You wouldn't get it. And so it's kind of frustrating when I hear people who aren't in the therapy world, or in the victim world, or in the predator world.
Okay.
Speak on it.
Well, no, BMT. I got to do 2 things right now, but let me get this for this. I want this on the record. Are you telling me right now, we know that his ex-wife filed a lawsuit and won against Gabrielle Union, and she believed that Miss Union has unwarranted influence over him? Of course, that's being his wife. And me and D. Darrell did cover that D. Darrell is a brother who also was looking for a mother figure, and he probably was projecting and doing counter transference in terms of looking for a mother figure in older women, because his mother was not there for him, and he used Savon's mother to be a mother figure for him, and she said that he had been acting strange after the fact. So Are you saying that his children were abused? Because I believe that's what his first wife was saying, that she believed that there was something something that was not appropriate in that household going on, which is why she filed her suit. Now I'm just asking, is that what you're saying, brother?
Yeah. It's some of the stuff, and make it light and easy. I am a social predator. Okay, calm down. I'm a social predator. So a predator can recognize prey in more predators.
Okay.
It just is what it is. If y'all don't understand that, y'all need to go read up what that is.
Okay. Now stop right there. I'm about to end the podcast portion of my show, but continue the YouTube version. So give me a minute. I'm going to play some music in just a moment. Okay, everybody out there, this is the Information Man Show / Information Man Speaks podcast. For those of you out there that are listening to me on SoundCloud, Google Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio Podcast, what's the other one? Apple Podcast, Google, all the good stuff out there, SoundCloud and Spreaker. Thank you, everybody out there that was listening to the program on Spreaker in particular live. Those of you that are listening on Periscope, YouTube, and Twitter, we're still going to be going, but I'm going to end this portion of my show specifically for the podcast portion of it. So I'm going to play a little bit of music. So everybody out there in those platforms, thank you. If you want to hear the complete full podcast, the video portion, go over to my first YouTube channel, which is the Information Man Show. I just brought Brother BMT on, and we're going to get right back into it. So thank you very much wherever you are in the world.
You are listening to the Information Man podcast.
Okay, everybody, I'm back. I had to end the podcast portion of the show. So, but we're still on live on the YouTube and Periscope and Twitter portion of the show. Back over, we got Brother BMT, Black Male Talk, with us. He made very good points. He said that you got to do your research, folks. You got to be up on what's happening. We got Brother D. Darrell, who's with us right here. He is a therapist, clinical therapist. He has experience, like myself, working with children, with adults. We have talked about this today, trying to give the best analysis to what's going on as we can. Sorry, I had to bring my volumes up a little bit. Brother D. Darrell, what do you think about what Brother BMT just said a few minutes ago?
Well, in regards, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're on the
Can you
screen.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, brother.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yes.
BMT has well documented his experiences and so forth, so he can definitely empathize and can relate to, I guess, some of the trauma and things of that even as a therapist with almost 20 years or more of experience, looking at it from the other side, there's a certain aspect in which I could only imagine or try to and somewhat empathize with, but there's a certain level of empathy that I can't grasp because I never experienced that before. I've only looked at it from the therapeutic sense, being on the other side of the chair, so to speak. But I think it's important that he talked about as far as predators and so to speak, in regards to how a person seeks out another person and and things of that sort, and how the Black community uses maladaptive language to try to seal traumatic events and situations and feelings, and the misusage of religion as a prime way of not dealing with the actual pathology that's at hand. So that's kind of what I gathered, in kind of short form from what he was saying, because this is something, again, that our community passes down from one generation to another. We're caught up in the survival. We're caught up in the survival mode, but we keep replicating the same trauma over and over and over, using the same means of just learning how to get by. And at some point, we're going to have to stop it and be like, okay, this particular family situation is going to have to stop. This illness is going to have to stop. We're going to have to deal with the fact that, yes, Uncle so and so, you raped me, or so and so, or yes, so and so did these things, and we're going to have to hold those people accountable. Because what ends up happening, and just so many families, particularly that I've dealt with, when that person is not held accountable, they repeat that same behavior. And the reason why they repeat that same behavior is because they never was held accountable, or they never sought the proper help to discontinue that behavior. Right. And so when you victimize other people, they begin to internalize and conceptualize the fact that they were violated. And so through play, as we talked about earlier, and other different activities, we began to show those same behaviors towards other kids. And then you become the predator. And then it goes on and on. It's a domino effect. And so at some point, we got to stop those dominoes and push them back, and learn to have to deal with these things and make this no longer a family pathology. And we have to learn to heal from these things. And I know it's very difficult, because it's hard for a mother to deal with the fact that her son molested her youngest daughter. It's hard for a grandmother to deal with the fact that her favorite grandson molested one of the little kids, and so on, or her brother molested one of her. It's very difficult, because we feel like we don't want to lose those relationships. We don't want to split the families, but in our essence, you're just making the family sicker. Right. So that's
is it fair? Is it fair to say, when people are abused, and we have this history in our community, in our culture, of abuse going all the way back to chattel slavery, but in the community, that can play a role in how we talked about this before? I want BMT to touch on this too. It plays a role in how we parent. So we cannot, even though, we said this before, Dwyane Wade is a basketball player, an ex-basketball player. He's a celebrity. So people are going to look at him different without examining the fact that this is a man who was abused, who went through some trauma. And we know that trauma can have an influence on how you parent. And we know that the ex-wife was shouting out before Gabrielle Union was in the picture that something was going on in that household with the kids. And now all of a sudden, now we have today where his son is trying to find himself in terms of his sexuality. And once again, I'm going to say it again. This isn't about telling people, grown people, what to do in their own personal life. This isn't about shaming. This is about examining what's going on and how there are things that we don't deal with in the Black community. And just because Dwyane Wade is a rich ex-athlete, he still came from the Black community where he experienced certain level of trauma. And the mother of his ex-wife talked about that as well. BMT, brother, what would you like to add as we get close to conclusion?
Yeah, so when it comes to this, there's a lot of different forms of, I guess, when it comes to these breaking periods. There's the physical and there's the mental. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely the spiritual. There's different ways to break an individual. I can say I know about these very well because it happened to me and I participated in breaking others. We used to have a thing called blooding of the sheets.
Oh God.
It's pretty much where we bring in the new ones and They would just they would cycle us in for 2 hours just to have sex. 2 hours straight.
And BMT, if you don't mind me saying, brother, and I'm not going to go into the details, you yourself were a victim of abuse.
Oh yeah.
Sexual abuse. Is that right, or am I correct or wrong?
No, that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. I'm not going to open that all up right now, but you are not just, I'm just letting everybody know, this is a man who is not speaking from just to be speaking. This is a man who's also a father himself, and he is speaking from experience himself.
So when we talk about this, the thing about it is, victims always have two options when this is over and said and done. One, they could either choose to find some way to seek help, which they can try. They can try to subconsciously, as D. Darrell and you spoke on, they'll subconsciously put it back in the back of their head. Now that's very dangerous when they do that, because there's trigger mechanisms that can turn certain keys where either they can either black out and get into a certain situation where they, get a little bit aggressive, or they can get docile where certain people want to be felt like they're back in that victim cocoon shape. Then there's the others who actually go out and seek. I used to purposely seek mentally damaged women. I used to purposely go seek mentally damaged women to be in relationships with. They were more appetizing for me to deal with because of how I was. I could have sex. I think the most I had sex was like over 30 women in one day. Because that literally, me and my wife already went to the clinic about it. I'm a hypersexual type of person. I don't think a lot of people in the community know or probably have gone to a doctor and actually given them that kind of clinical resume of, hey, this happened. When that happens, that's when you can have doctors and psychiatrists start to step in, like, okay, we need to start graphing, figuring out where have you been, what is going on, because it picks up. These things, we have this thing about where it happened to me as a kid, well, the problem is going to go away. No, because what you do then can pass on to your relationship, can pass on to your children.
Right.
If I didn't have mommy there or daddy there, or if I was in a compromising situation where I knew somebody like doing certain things to me, those aggressions are going to pick back up. And if not with me, then it's going to pick up with my children. Hereditary and traits actually pass on. I wish people would actually study on these kind of things.
Yeah. BMT, let me ask you this question then, as I go back to D. Darrell as well. You being how many, if you don't mind me asking, how many kids do you have?
I have 4 with me that are alive.
Okay. How many, I know these are sensitive questions. How many boys do you have? You have 2 boys, 2 sons?
2 sons.
Okay, let's keep it 100% buck here. Because me and D. Darrell, our position is that what kids want to be as they grow into adulthood, they're going to be what they want to be. You want to love them as a parent. You want to love your kids. You want the best for your kids. But the question still remains: do we allow children to make adult decisions when it comes to their sexuality, or maybe how they dress or present themselves? I know we don't want to hold, because there's a lot of cases where kids have rebelled against their parents when the parents try to suppress who they are. I get that. But if one of your sons were to come to you in the way that in the way Wade son has come to him at 12 years old, would you allow your son to make an adult decision like that? I mean, he's a celebrity, so it's a different dynamic because he can go on television He can be highly celebrated for making that decision by the gay community, as he actually is being celebrated. But for the everyday brother out here, knowing what this world is for us, and we're not living in a bubble like a Dwyane Wade, because he's got money to kind of make things a little bit better for him and his family, right? Putting yourself in the everyday brother's shoes, how do you think you would handle that with your own child, given the fact that, of course, you're going to love your child unconditionally, but do you let them make an adult decision like that? That's pretty heavy.
And it's funny you talked about that, because again, with my circumstances, I am expecting 1 out of the 4 will possibly have that reaction where they will be overly sexual. So I expect that will happen. So as far as it goes with my sons, as far as letting them dress up in a feminine type of persona, no, because they're not covered in that type of blanket, and I know how the Black community can be about that type of sexuality. So I wouldn't put my sons in that type of limelight. But I would definitely just say I'm waiting for it to happen.
Okay.
And I'm just being realistic with y'all due to my situation. And we understand, us three understand in the medical field, when something like this triggers to one person or an adult, especially when you have this many children, most likely it's going to possibly trigger onto one of the 4. So I am knowingly already 10 steps ahead of waiting for this. So I have to tell my kids, and I've had times where I did not know how to properly love my children. So I literally, we've already talked about it. We got steps planned ahead on how we're going to deal with this. And what I plan on doing, just no, not right now, son.
Okay.
Because
I want to make this statement for everybody out there listening. The bottom line is, no matter what your child's sexuality is, I think all of us could agree here, myself, you, BMT, and brother D. Darrell, the therapist, I think we can all agree, no matter what our kids grow up into becoming in terms of their sexuality, what have you, even if we don't agree with lifestyle or maybe life choices that they make. For example, there's parents out there that get upset if their kids don't go to college, and you got kids who grow up and say, I don't want to go to college, and you don't like it. But does it mean you stop loving them? No, you're going to still love your child, but it comes down to a question of, is your child mature enough to take on that type of persona at such a young age? And no matter what your child ends up growing into, whether you agree with it or not, as a man, you're still, if you are a man of any kind of principle, you're still going to love your child, even if you don't agree with their personal decisions, sexual decisions, what have you. Let me pass that over to brother D. Darrell and let him get in on some more of this. Go right ahead, brother.
Again, it's a matter of, as a parent, because we're supposed to be the teachers of what we want to go on and how we want our household to be to function. We're the ones that's supposed to instill the value system, the morals, a certain level of value system, and how one conducts themselves. And as a parent, again, you in a sense have to control that narrative of hey, this is we're the ones in control, and this is how we want our children to operate. We cannot allow our children, whether it's this issue or any other issue, to dictate to us what we want to do, what they want to do in their life, and we're just supposed to, blindly just concede with it and say, okay, this is what you want to do, then we're going to let you do this. And again, I didn't know that that was new. I didn't know that I guess with BMT saying that there's confirmed information that that 2 of the kids were molested. I always figured that it potentially happened if it wasn't physical. There had to been some level
some inappropriate behavior that transpired. But develop into that, and that's usually the case most of the time. But again, it goes back to the fact that that we have to, in a sense, when our kids come with us with any type of, not just this, but any type of atypical situation, we as a parent, you still have to dictate how you want things done in your home. Now, I want to commend BMT for doing something that is very difficult, and there are a lot of people who have kids who they may perceive that may engage in certain behaviors, to have a plan in place. That is being proactive, and unfortunately, there are not a lot of parents who do that. I've had situations where I've had parents that, particularly Black men, that have issues with their sons,
right,
and they don't know what to do, and they're scared. They're afraid. They're scared. They're afraid. There's a lot of self-doubt in themselves as a father.
Right.
These are things that a father may look, or a parent may look at themselves if they suspect these type of things.
Right.
But I think that in the development and the psychosexual development of human beings, I mean, it would be inappropriate for me to say for kids. There are tons of kids who went through certain gender identity situations, and then as they got older, it phased out, and it was never an issue as an adult. I just think that it's premature to just yield to that particular perspective, as if there won't be a phenomenon that may occur throughout their adolescence or later adolescence, or even adulthood, that may trigger a different opinion of what they want to do with themselves. And I just think that this kid is just too young, is not experienced enough, has not experienced anything in life at the age he is, to be making, again, long-term decisions that can have massive repercussions.
Right. Let me read someone in the chat room. It's Faith. Faith said, we need more strong Black families. This includes calling out weak 2-parent households too. Some single parent households are stronger than weak 2-parent homes. We need strong Black parents, period. That's what Sister Faith said in there. What's going on? Oh, Reliable, Casper 76 is in the house. We got Creative Group is in the house. We got who else we have in the house? Back to the Basics. We got the Spiritual Creed in the house as well. Paying us. Oh, we got Earl Owens, who's just come into the house, paying us a visit. Peace to you. We got the return of the Black man, who's just come on in. Appreciate you. Some of you out there, you're gonna have to watch this from the beginning, because me and Brother D. Durrell really went into this and broke down some things clinically that I think is important. So please watch it from the beginning if you haven't seen it from the beginning. And everybody in the chat room, please share the video in your social media so that more people can watch this. And also, please like the video. Definitely share it with your friends, your families, and loved ones. Definitely. BMT, before I get ready to come to a conclusion, brother, you heard what Brother D. Durrell had to say. I've got to say, as a father, you are faced with a real big decision. You are faced with something that a lot of brothers on YouTube who do a lot of talking about family and women and all this kind of stuff, who A, have never been married, B, don't have a family to speak of, and C, they have never raised kids. So they've never had any responsibility outside of themselves. And to me, those are the last type of cats to be talking about issues when they have no skin in the game. You've got skin in the game. I've got skin in the game. D. Durrell's got skin in the game. And we can put a perspective on it, because all of us on this panel are parents, are responsible for someone outside of our damn selves.
Right.
I really feel, because this is we're in a generation. Remember, I said this on your panel. we are in a generation, I told D. Darrell this as well, where the kids that are growing up today, what we may feel uncomfortable with, which is the whole issue around sexuality, a lot of these kids today are more comfortable with it than we are because they go to school with kids who have all different types of sexual orientations and styles and the way they carry themselves. And we didn't grow up. When we grew up knowing people that were gay, yes, but we grew up in a world where it wasn't necessarily accepted. I know for me, definitely, it was a closeted thing. And I grew up partially in San Francisco. Okay. My mother had gay friends. So I saw a lot of things firsthand in that city where things were very closeted, in some cases, not closeted at all. Okay. And so, and we know that Atlanta, Georgia, I'm sorry to break anybody's bubbles here. Atlanta, Georgia is what? The #1 black gay capital. And I think DC. So once, this isn't about putting anyone down for their lifestyle, but what I'm saying is no matter how our kids grow up and turn out, at the end of the day, my question to you, brothers, is it our job to love our children unconditionally, no matter if they come to us and they say, Dad, I know you're not going to like this, Dad, but I think I'm gay. Now, of course, we may say, okay, I can convince him that he's not gay. But let's say your son grows up at 18 years old, 19 years old, and 20. Do you still love him unconditionally, even if you don't approve of the lifestyle personally? Because we know religion, and a lot of us that have grown up in the church and religion, it does play on our psyche, how we look at our kids in this way. Anyone wants to tackle that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if your child turns gay, and I've dealt with quite a few of them, gay, transsexual, cross-dressers. I've dealt with a lot of people. By day, they look like average people. At nighttime, just like that, whole new persona. I think pretty much, like me and my wife already agreed that, hey, I get it. If you're gay in our household, that's fine. When you're 18 and you're out of the house, that's on you. Whatever you choose to do, I can't stop you. I can only tell you to be safe, wear protection. I think that's a big issue. I was tracking and working with a transsexual that we were pulling people off the street that were in prostitution. And I think I recorded at least about 24 men, down low men, with this person. And mind you, they still had their wedding ring on and all this stuff, and doing everything and saying how they love this person.
Right.
And we would talk about it. We went to the diner, and and you were like, what, Joe? It amazes me how much of they hate me, but how many of them come to see me at nighttime. And we have a really bad demon with that in our community. We really do. And again, it's again like these are these skeletons in the closet that we don't talk about. Like we even here on this panel, as 3 grown men. And granted, we can be talking about it all in the scientific or in the medical and spiritual department, but people holistically don't know how to take to an info, because these are the taboos that have inherently been placed in our mind as the no say so. You don't talk about this stuff. I remember when I told a black preacher that I was getting raped continuously by black women. He said, well, brother, what I'm saying? You're a man now. You're getting some, what I'm saying? You getting taken care of. Granted, he called the person and they came and picked me up. I got severely punished for that. So I understood that the way how we personify sexuality, we tend to allow a lot of wolves in our camp, in our home, in our stuff. And this is why everybody knows to come to the black community to prey upon our sexuality, because it gets pushed on us like a disease. So We always throw out these alpha and these betas and those are all butt breaking terms. Y'all don't understand alpha, beta, like these little terms that we be playing with, these sexualizations and stuff. Like these things are placed on us to doggone put us in certain roles of docileness. That's why I don't like playing these games when it comes to this kind of thing. That's why, like I said, when I be trying to tell brothers, watch out for that pump and dump stuff. Because that mental trauma that you do to those females, they take it out on everybody else.
Right.
If they can't get you, they're gonna go after the kids. If they can't take it out on the kids, they're gonna take it on the daughters and the sons.
Yeah.
Who take it out on everybody else. My bad.
I believe that as men, we create the women that we want. We create the women that we get, because most women that have trauma and have emotional issues, unfortunately, somewhere down the line, if they didn't have a proper father raising them, they might have been abused by a boyfriend who used them. And I noticed on YouTube, it seems like brothers who brag about the fact that they smut women out, they brag about all this over, I'm a world traveler, I'm a this and that, and I know how to, really play the women. They are the ones that are contributing to the emotional pain and impact on our females, so that when you meet these females in the community and you're saying, man, why is she so messed up? Well, down the line, there was some brother who got with her and he used her for sex. He used her for whatever. And then you're wondering why, when you meet her, why she so messed up.
Yes.
This whole thing is circular. It's a circular destruction. Let me go over to Brother D Darrell and get his piece on this part as we get close to conclusion.
I've had that argument with multiple YouTubers in regards to this thing about relationships and so forth, and what in regards to the black female and etc. And the responsibility, the self-responsibility that we have to take, just as you talked about how we create the women that engage in this. Again, I go back to it, people just don't develop behaviors just because. There has to be social interactive things, whether effective or ineffective, that contribute to it. Bitter black women just didn't come into fruition. They just sprung out off the ground being bitter. No, there were experiences that led to a person acting this way.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about the feminization of black males, which in turn causes the masculinization of females. So there's a direct correlation with that. And so we just, in essence, we have to just take responsibility as men for the community. Pretty much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let me just say this right now. D Darrell, I really appreciate you being with me today.
Yeah.
Helping us unpack a few things. And I had said this before, and I truly believe this. There's probably a bunch of videos on this issue around Dwyane, his son, and the whole issue around gender. I think I can honestly say that I don't think there's too many videos on YouTube. There's probably some, but I don't think there's too many that have unpacked this issue in the way that we have today. I'm sure there's some that have, but I bet you there's a whole lot more that are just getting on and talking out of pure emotions and pure just junkyard dog talk, and not talk that's based in some experience, some empirical discussions and clinical discussions, and in a discussion that's done in a mature manner.
Yes.
That's what I truly believe that.
I agree.
So, BMT, you got any last words, brother?
Yeah, pretty much simply. And like I said, I go over this quite often. Listen, y'all. one of the things I wish I had was a support system. We go straight to judging, but we don't ever ask for why. Why are these things the way they are, and do the proper research. I don't agree with a lot of things D-Wade is doing, but one of the things I did agree with was go do your research. One thing, but now we don't agree with everything he's doing. But I don't say go to a clinical professional. Some of us are in relationships right now, and we keep these kind of things from our mate, our spouse, our family, because we're ashamed. This is a big issue that we got going on in the Black community, and I say this openly and very honestly. Some of us are ashamed to talk about this. I'm not ashamed to talk about it even on social media, because I've been having other people who are even content creators. They've been coming out and on the sideline to me saying, I was raped. I was kidnapped. Somebody did this to me. And I'm like, what? Wait, so I'm not the only one? And I'm not talking about like little numbers. I'm talking quite a few are coming out now. So this is kind of letting me know that some of y'all on these mics and screaming or in the chats, there's a lot of rape and abuse that's been going on in the community. The only thing that it angers me is that we're too worried and ashamed to go get the proper help from the clinical people that can help us. And then we would say, well, I'll deal with it. I'll just pray about it. I'll just be strong. I'll be a man. I'll just suck it up as being a woman. Man, listen, man, my grandma told me that her friend told us that 3 of her children were produced out of rape. That the man came home drunk and just raped her right there on the kitchen floor 3 times. So she never knew how to love 3 of her children. Do y'all know how hard or how long that builds up on some people? Do y'all know how many boys have had some stuff happen to them, but they feel if I tell the other boys I'll be less than a man or some stuff? Like, this is why I say, y'all, this is some deep shelf self-hate, where we make fun of the dark-skinned person, but see, we don't ever talk about that dark-skinned person is easy pickings for other people to go after.
That's true. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. But see, this is the thing. When we have these psychological problems that we don't address and deal with, then when we sit back and wonder why we have issues in finances, we have issues in having Black businesses, we have issues with female and male relationships, we have issues with trying to get a hold and control of having something in this society. All this can be led back to our psychological dysfunctions. Meaning, when I say psychological dysfunction, meaning we have never addressed the pain in our families, the pain that we endured growing up as kids, right? The pain that our ancestors went through in this country we call America. There's so many things that Black people have not unpacked because we have always seen therapy as a taboo thing, right? We see it as, oh, that's something that white people go and do, right? So we've never been healed. We too busy. You'll see it this upcoming year when we have Thanksgiving. You'll have people who say, oh, that's crazy Uncle Charlie. That's crazy Aunt Mary. No, they might really have a clinical condition, but you just want to say that's crazy Charlie. He's been touched, girl. He been touched, man. That's our problem. Always living in denial. Right. Always living in denial of what is which holds us back. And I think if we can somehow figure out a way to heal our minds mentally and learn who we are, learn our history properly, I think once we can get our minds together, sky's the limit for us as a people. I know there's people that on YouTube that'll say, burn the community. Black folks ain't going to survive in the next fit. No, we are resilient people. We just got to get our minds right. I'll leave y'all with that.
No. I agree. This is why they know that they can fuck with us. Excuse my language.
No, but it's the truth, man. If we could just get our freaking minds right. I think D. Darrell has something he was gonna say.
Yeah, what I was gonna say. Yeah, I mean, we have to begin to gravitate to the things that are going to benefit us. I think in our community we feel that part of the American experience has to be pain. It has to be living in a state of a desolate, experience. It doesn't. Our experience doesn't have to be that way. We can change it. Being Black doesn't have to be exclusive to trauma and tragedy. Ill-gotten things occurring to us all the time, and there's a large percentage of our community that think because we're Black, we're supposed to just deal with negative experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They don't associate Blackness with thriving or living effectively, living happy, productive lives. They feel that it has to deal with pain, it has to deal with struggle, it has to deal with being, just all types of negativity has to be connected to Blackness. Okay. And that we can't do nothing about it. We just have to deal with it. That's just what the experience of being Black people is, and we just have to move along. And so we teach each generation how to basically repress pain, repress negative feelings, repress everything. Don't deal with anything. Don't resolve. Don't come up with solutions. It's just that this is what we have to deal with. And I hate to say it, and it's also connected to the religious, because the religious community perpetuates this. Just put it in the Lord's hand. Just pray it away. Instead of proactive, independent, confronting, problem solving.
Right. And we can't always look, the old, you know the Bible as well as I do in some ways. Let's just put it straight up. Doesn't it tell you, don't we learn in the Bible that God helps those who help themselves?
Exactly.
So we got to first start with helping ourselves first before we can get that blessing. I don't want to sound like I'm an evangelist or something right now, but I'm just keeping everybody donate to my to my church. No, but you know what I'm saying. But BMT, this is a question that you're best well to answer. There's a woman on here who's a grandmother, Mommy Chowmate 4. I think here, I'm not saying it right. She says, I'm a grandmother. I have watched the military strip manhood from men and say they will build you up stronger. No, they break your spirit to control and, desensitize our men and women. Now, you are a military man. I hear people always say that there's great things about their military experience, and then there's some negative. Like anything in life, there's good and bad in everything. What's your opinion as to what the grandmother, what she just said?
And this is me being honest about that. There's actually a lot of telling truths about that. The military, it does break. It does have things that they break out of you. Your individuality. They used to have it pretty bad for minorities and women. They used to do things to us, to emasculate us, or different stuff to put it that there's pretty much outlawed. Now, one of the biggest issues was sexualization of certain words I won't repeat on your channel to get flagged. But rape is very high in the military. Rape is very high, and it's very, very bad. And a lot of men don't talk about it. I think D. Darrell, you're a therapist. I've dealt with it on the inside with catching men get emasculated, having other men storm into their barracks in their room while they're half naked. They have to stand straight up and parade rest. Different things have happened to a lot of men. Women, they got it really bad. They get a lot of them. There's a lot of rape cases in the military where there is no justice.
Yeah.
And the people get to walk away scot-free because you either risk losing your rank or you risk getting kicked out. So some people have to just hold that L, and there's nothing to the predator is more satisfying because I know and you know what I've done to you, but you can't say nothing. So I can keep on repeatedly doing it to you. So it tends to, we always wonder why that one soldier go AWOL and postal. Or why did they just go on drugs and go off the deep end? There's a lot of things. Does the military have a way of breaking men? Yes, it has been. It's even documented down in history that a lot of black men were, as they say, taken behind the tool shed.
Right. Well, brother, I don't know if you heard the other part of my presentation today. I did bring out some historical history behind this mechanism right here, which was used to harm black men and women, to subdue them, to give up sex to the slave master. When in particular, the issue around buck breaking, when black men, they would take the biggest and strongest black man who was defiant, and they would either the slave master or they would have someone penetrate him and embarrassing him in front of his family and those other slaves, to say, this is what you're going to get if you do what he's doing, to subdue him. So even whether it be the military or anything that we deal with in life, this all comes from a historical origins, and it continues to play itself out in so many different ways. Maybe they're not buck breaking us today by doing what they did to our ancestors, but there's many ways that you can buck break a black male. Definitely, if you can get that black male to see himself other than being a man, and that you can feminize him, because historically through pictures and articles, they have done that specifically to black men and to our children. And that is a reality that we have to deal with today.
That's still being used. That's we have these, it's a fetish porn called ghetto gaggers, or different other porns where they'll take a woman and they'll have group sex, but one of the tools that they use is a clamp to open up the orifice.
Oh God. Okay, so, BMT. It's real hard. It's horrifying stuff to me, man, to hear that kind of stuff. I know it exists.
I know. See, that's the thing about it. That's why sometimes when a lot of these guys be talking about submission, and I'm like, what y'all talk about is kiddies play to what I've actually seen. So when I'm saying that tool is not foreign to me, I know what that tool is. I was like, oh wow, I'm surprised somebody actually showed the tool. Like there's a they got the modern day tools of that. So I've actually seen that tool actually used on a 16-year-old girl. I know how to use that tool myself. So I've seen it used on men and boys. So I know what that tool is. It's still here. It never went nowhere. It just got that. I mean, now it's even in medical practices now. So the thing about it is, the thing about it that's going on now is the fact that a lot of our people, you see how it got y'all, even as medical professionals, it made y'all a sense of didn't make y'all feel well about that. Granted, it never happened to y'all, but see, when you start going down that graphical route and these people start actually pulling up, I'm at this place in my life now where I got shit to lose when I talk about this, because it's going to touch somebody.
Right.
So
I feel some kind of way about it. I think D. Darrell would agree.
I understand,
because I look at the history, and I look at how slave like that is, how, and then another reason why it affects me, because I have a daughter myself, man. I have a child. So whenever something like that happens, you always think about your own kids, right? I mean, you got, who's the director right now who adopted a young lady? Who's that director? Spielberg or whatever. His daughter, his adopted daughter, wants to go into pornography now. So and so I put more of myself into that and say, wow, I wouldn't want that to happen to my child. I wouldn't want my child to be involved in that type of stuff. And it just shows you the kind of world that we're in. People are into all sorts of things. That's their business, but it's not something I definitely want to be a part of.
So somebody said they never heard of such allegations. You can go ahead and look it up in military documents. You can go ahead and look it up in pretty much all throughout history, Hell, even they even got it in prison documentaries of men purposely butt breaking people.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, BMT. If anybody in the chat room or listening does not believe that rape and these sort of things happen in the military, you've been under a rock somewhere. You've had military retired personnel who have filed lawsuits, who have said what has happened to them directly. Anybody that doesn't think that this stuff goes on in the military, you've been sleeping for about a couple of decades now.
We all think happened in Vietnam, Korea, a lot of these places. Whenever we would take an area, listen, man, don't think that we're saints, man. I'm just trying to let you know. You know how many times I caught soldiers doggone messing with young girls and stuff. You know how many times I had to tell young guys, don't mess with the slaves. Yes, we saw a lot of slaves out there.
Right.
Trust me. They're like, well, they're not people, they're slaves. I'm like, okay, I got to put you back on the boat, dude, because you're already. But see, this is the stuff that I've been seeing throughout my life, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's always a joke until it's at your doorstep.
Right.
It's always. And see, the bad thing about it for the Black community, we don't take it serious until somebody white says something. You know, oh my God, then I can't believe this is happening to us. But why is it that whenever a Black man or a group of Black men say, yo, we have this issue going on real time? This is why we have a lot of Black men having problems today when they want to talk about this shit. Well, nobody takes them serious. But they're like, you're bitching too much. You're complaining.
But see, D. Darrell and BMT, this is the reason why, as Black men, we often get labeled as angry Black men because nobody listens to us. So we have a damn reason to be angry because nobody listens to the issues that we deal with, and it causes us frustration. And when you are frustrated, you end up engaging in unhealthy things like unhealthy sex, unhealthy lifestyles, drugs, alcohol, and what else, D. Darrell?
and like gambling, all of those things. You know, porn addictions.
Right.
It surfaces in all aspects of your life.
And check this out. I'm gonna put a icing on top of the cake. And then you also get on YouTube and talk about women all day and what's wrong with them. And talking about getting passports and talking about what you need to be doing. And if you're doing all of that, then why the hell, if you're doing that, if you're flying around and you're doing all this stuff, then you wouldn't be on YouTube talking about it every day because you would be doing it. No, you're on YouTube talking about it because you're using YouTube as a therapy. Let's be honest. YouTube, it's even for me, damn it. YouTube is a therapy. It allows us to talk about issues and examine issues and things that we struggle with, even in ourselves, that we're not going to get on mainstream media.
Exactly.
That's what makes these platforms so powerful. Because tell me right now, brother, what channel right now, what program right now is having this conversation in the way that we're having this conversation on mainstream media? Tell me right now. Tell me. I'll turn the TV on right now. Which one?
None.
ABC, NBC, MSNBC, CNN. Who's talking about it in this manner?
None.
Anyway,
and that's the thing about it, and that's why I respect these brothers. I watch Info Dude talk about psychology. I damn sure always tune into when D. Darrell talk about psychology and also mental health. And those are the videos that never get watched. Whenever I bring victims or people to talk about counseling and stuff, I'm always enthralled to watch how we will go to the negativity and the traumatic abuse topics versus the healing and actually the why of why we're doing what we're doing topics. And see, that's just how I know how far gone we are. So then when y'all see a D Wade, it's a big topic. But then when you already have counselors, and I'm telling you, y'all could email D. Darrell and also info and literally say, hey, I got an issue. Can I email you? But y'all just don't. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, man, we are sick. We're sick, but we just don't want to. Some people just don't want the cure. There are some of us who want it, But by that time, they're too drained to like, yo, man, I can only got enough medication for me. I can't help y'all. That's why I'm, man, like I'm thankful for info. I'm thankful for D Darrell.
Appreciate
you. Know what I'm saying, and that's why I always encourage. I try to encourage y'all. You know what I'm saying, but sometimes I just be watching how it's getting for a lot of our people, man. And these politicians and a lot of these people, and hell, even some of our own people are pretty much preying off of these narratives on us. And I'm like, yo, man, that's why I'm just like, I got to step back. I got to step back sometimes.
Right. Let me just say this in conclusion. I definitely, once again, appreciate D Darrell. We were supposed to do this over the weekend, but he had some things that came up, and then I was going to do this solo, but I said, hey, I'm off today. I didn't go into work today. Let me see if the brother's around. Luckily, he was, and we were able to put this together, which I thought was very important. Let me say this for the record, too. Whatever D Wade's son finally decides is his long-term lifestyle going forward, at the end of the day, that's his business. If he truly, if it truly comes out that he is truly gay, or that he is just a young man who likes dressing like a female or being addressed as a female, but still likes being with females, we talked about that too as well, brother BMT, then so be whatever it is. That's his business. Even if I don't agree with it as an old fogey, that's his business. If people are gay, whatever you are, homosexual, lesbian, bisexual, that's your business, whether we agree with it or not. However, and there is a however, it still does not change the fact and the reality that masculinity in our society today is under attack, and particularly Black masculinity is 100% under attack and has been historically. No matter what your lifestyles are, it does not change that fact as a reality. We are men, so we see it. We are Black men in particular, and we have seen it. I'm 50 years old. I have seen it personally in my lifespan. And there's brothers way older than us who can tell you the same damn stories. Same damn stories. Is that right or not, D Darrell?
That's true. Every generation, it surfaces.
You can talk to grandfathers, great uncles, and they'll tell you the same thing, how their masculinity has been messed with in some way or fashion on the job. I mean, check this out, D Darrell and BMT. Y'all can relate to this. Why is it that when Black men are in professional settings and we know our craft, we're well spoken, we can speak like a leader, we will be quick to be labeled as the angry Black man? He seems, I feel uncomfortable with him. But I seen this firsthand when white men speak very charismatic and very leader-like. They're seen as, as a leader. They're seen as, oh, he's just passionate, right? When Black men engage like this, we're seen as angry. He's an uppity, you know what? He knows too much. Matter of fact, I've experienced that in my own professional life.
Me too. That's why I'm self-employed now.
I'm told I'm conceited, so I'm fine with myself now.
I totally agree.
I'm right.
I feel CMT because it's a female-dominated field.
Hey, I already had a whole rant on somebody telling me, you know, some of y'all who think you're doctors, business owners, and all that stuff, you know, some of y'all don't know shit. I'm like, well, this person don't even got a job, let alone a career or degrees or business. Yet somehow they got more people listening to them. And I know I'm on Planet of the Apes sometimes, because it's like the people who have all the degrees or have the experience. It always amazes me. Like, I got people who are literally never, ever changed a diaper, raised a child, let alone taken a child to school or done anything socially with their community. They have all the answers.
Right.
But then we have us three. We're always there, and nobody wants to hear us. I'm
right. Back to the basics, sister. Look, we know that black women, women in general, but black women in particular, have certain things that you deal with, that you're marginalized in society. You are defined as something. Your sexuality, for example, just as black male sexuality is picked with, black female sexuality, usually black females, especially in movies and television, your sexuality, you're portrayed. Isn't that interesting, brothers? Black women's sexuality is portrayed as masculine, while black men's sexuality is portrayed as feminine. Isn't it interesting how both of us, they're trying to make our women masculine while making us feminine?
Exactly. That's
very interesting.
Yeah. Because it includes dysfunction. When you're trying to get both to come out of their natural selves, or if I want to use that term natural, but typically what we're supposed to be, it causes dysfunction because one is going to be in conflict with the other for not producing the things that they want from that opposite sex. We don't want masculine women, and masculine women don't want feminine men. Let's be honest. So it creates an environment of dysfunction.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, brothers, I'm going to call it an end to the show. Appreciate you being here once again, D. Darrell, Brother BMT. Everybody, thank you out there for being here. I will be back with more presentations. Once again, everybody, as a reminder, this first channel will be a channel mainly surrounded around doing interviewing people and taking on issues like this with a guest like Brother D. Darrell to talk about it. The second channel, the Information Man Speaks podcast, will be mostly a channel where I'll give my personal commentary, radio style over there. So that'll be the difference. I'll be bouncing between both channels, giving you content. And I appreciate everybody that's listening in Periscope, everyone listening in Twitter, everyone that'll listen to this on the replay. Please share this video. Very important. I know that these type of conversations are not going to get a lot of juice with people because we're not on here doxing each other and talking crap about one another. We're getting into real talk, mature talk. And I know that type of talk doesn't really attract people that much because we're not, like I'm saying, doing all this ratchet type stuff. But it is what it is. D. Darrell, any last words, brother, before I put a plug on this?
Last thing I want to say is this, man, and this is to everybody in the chat, Black YouTube, whatever sector you're in. I think that we have to, as a community, define how we want to be seen. We have to define our own value system. We have to define for our community what avenues we want it to go, and not allow people outside of our community that have never meant any good to us on what we should and should not be doing. I'm encouraging independent thinking as a community, independent thinking as a individual, and that we, basically come together to define what we want for ourselves.
Right.
That's my final thoughts on that.
All right, brother. You take care of yourself, brother. We'll be back to do some more. I still got to talk to you about Brother Umar Johnson. There's definitely. There's a lot of controversy.
Man. I guarantee you that one I have so many people that every time I talk about Umar Johnson, everybody want to hear what I gotta say.
Well, this is the thing.
It's crazy. I can't even leave the subject alone, man.
The reason why I want to talk to you about it, not necessary to get into the berating or what have you, but to really analyze what's going on. At the end of the day, I'll just say this. At the end of the day, the brother had a vision, which was to open up a school for boys.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, with all of Umar Johnson's tactics and the things that are going on with, does he own the school? What's happening with the taxes of the school? All the things that are happening surrounding the brother in his own personal behaviors. At the end of the day, the goal should have remained and still remain that there should be a school for black young men because many people put in money for donations.
Exactly,
I'm just gonna leave it at that. At the end of the day, that's what the goal was, and that should be the end goal at the end of the day. But we'll have conversation about that another time, brother.
Cool. Yeah, just let me know when you want to do it. I'll be more than happy to interact with you again on that particular topic. That's going to be an explosive. That's going to be an explosive.
Yeah,
let me say a very polarizing topic to talk
yeah,
about.
it is going to be polarizing.
I already see it. Because I know how it is on my channel, so I can imagine on a bigger platform. I went on. To be honest with you, I was on I was on O'Shea's channel.
Yes.
And I was in a situation where we weren't even talking about that. And I probably had about 25 to 30 people in the chat asking me questions related to that one issue about him. So I can just imagine. So whenever you want to, let me know. I'll be more than happy to discuss it.
Yeah, brother. We'll get at it. I'm gonna be I'm gonna at some point in time be interviewing O'Shea as well.
Okay.
He's been waiting for me to give him a date and a time and all that good stuff. So I'll be bringing O'Shea Duke Jackson over to the Information Man show. Should have interviewed him a long time ago, but it's gonna and I still got to get my man Super Sly 75 over and a bunch of other people that I got to get over with time. I got a lot of people that I got to interview. I got a book. And like I was telling you on your channel one night ago, man, there's weekends when I can't do it. I got people right now that I was supposed to interview a long time ago. And I haven't interviewed them because something changes in their life or something changes in mine. And we have to push the date back or something. Right. Yeah. And like today, I was able to do this with you because it was spontaneous. I was home today. Normally, I would not be home.
Exactly.
So, so that's just how it works sometimes. You can't make everybody happy, but you try your best. So thank you, brother. All right, brother. Take care of yourself.
All right, man.
All right, brother. So everybody, that was Brother D. Darrell. I thank him for being here. I thank you. Let me give some shout outs in the chat room before I officially end this. Let me see. We got Mama Chalky in the house. We got Mata. Thank you for being here. We got Earl Owens, Casper, Brother Casper, 7878694. Don't be a stranger. Come on back over. We got a lot of good stuff coming your way. Then we got let me see. We got Earl Owens. We got Faith, who super chatted me. Thank you, sister. That is very beautiful of you to super chat me. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the super chat.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming over. And I definitely got to get my butt over to your channel too, whatever you got going on. I thank you for coming over and checking me out. I want to thank everybody once again in Periscope, Twitter, share the video. What else did I want to say to everybody out there? Make sure you subscribe to the second channel, the Information Man Speaks podcast channel. I definitely would appreciate that. That's lovely. What you just sent me, sister. I really appreciate that again. So we got Earl Owens. Let me see who came over. We had Sugar Love who came in. We got Sister BT that's in the house. Back to Basics came in the house today. Return of the Black Man. Faith again, who super chatted me, which I really appreciate. We got who is this young lady right here? We'll put her on the screen. Trutha. Thank you for being here. We got folks who came over. We got Bella who came in. Thank you, Bella. Let me see who else we got coming in here. So there was a lot of people who came in today. Oh, Brother BMT for being on. Raja, thanks for coming in right now. The stream is about over, but definitely watch. Yeah, my voice is not clear because Yard Streams has a lot of sound problems. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to end it right now. I'm going to end up editing this video to take the bad sound out. So I apologize for the bad sound. Everybody take care. Love you. I'm pretty much out. Thank you, everybody.
You are listening to Information Man.